Hi. Hi everybody, welcome back. Hi Starbuds, it's great to see you. Yeah. I will say before we get started, I did rebrand. I rebranded Starlight to Starbuds because yeah, it sounds like halfway between stars and plants. Yeah, like ambiguous. No, not that I could be a plant or anything, but yeah. Hey Dusty, Graham, John, Bush, VOD watchers, lookers, it's great to see you. Not a plant. Or if I am, then that means you are too. That means all of you have to be too. Yeah. If I'm a plant, we're plants together. I think this is our compromise. This is our compromise. Little buddies in the stars. Yeah. I'm a weed. Well, you just stay over there. You just stay over there. Aren't weeds like dangerous to like other plants? Yeah. Or maybe we're just all weeds taking over the world. Taking over. Just like the brain rot that is Warhammer 40K. I know nothing about this. It's been recommended by Graham, some other chatters, and I'm super excited. No work in the morning, so I could watch the whole stream. Good luck. Good luck. Okay, I know there are a lot of videos. Please go check out the original creators. These are Luetin09's. We'll go through maybe a few videos, yeah, and see what happens. You won't have fun. So, some people were saying this could be like super heavy. Is that true? Like super heavy story? I just want to prepare myself. They're like mature themes. NSFW. Just the maturest themes ever. But for real, I think it's like a lot of history, right? Like a lot of factions. Yeah, factions like orcs and orcs. It's a grimdark setting. Phora as an orc. Would I be an orc? Draw your fan art. How do you think I would look? Which species or faction do you think Phora would be? Tell me in the comments below. Yeah. Slanish is best. Slanish. Karong. Or Karorka. Karork. I love these names. I'm eager to get started. Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like there's any plant life. So that's a good thing, maybe. Let's dive over. Here's the channel. It's Luetin09. There's a full playlist. This is linked in the description too. Yeah. I think we'll just go through absolutely the first video, maybe a couple of others, depending on how much has to get explained. Plague Marines. There are so many groups. But yeah, I'm super excited. Again, subscribe to Luetin. Subscribe. Let's give it a satisfying subscribe, like it, and go check this out. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And this is WTF is Warhammer 40K. Explained. Ignore Slanish. Ignore. Okay, let's get started. And please let me know if the volume's okay too. I think we are good to go. Okay, perfect. It's so pretty. The setting is crazy. In the grim darkness of the far future, there's only war. So creepy. Oh wow, should I read this? Story time. Okay, I won't linger a ton on these. The Emperor of Man, the Carrion Lord. So this is one group, one faction, humans. Carrion. It's like a meat lord. Forget the promise of a progress and understanding. For there is no peace among the stars. The universe is a big place, and whatever happens, you will not be missed. Is this I've heard people tell stories about a game like Alpha Centauri, a super old game, one of the first big games. I've heard about this. Yeah. From 1,000 souls die every day. Human blood, human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made. And it looks like there's a year, a date at the bottom, lots of numbers. I wonder what happened. If this is like far future. Yeah. Oh, this is a long screen. They give you time. Warhammer 40K.
My series of primers
Oh, it's
focused on
happening.
the universe of Warhammer
It's happening.
40,000. If you're watching this, you may well be brand
Let me, okay. Let me crank up the volume just a little.
new to the all-encompassing
Okay.
hobby we call 40K. But what is it?
Yeah, so
What's it all
new.
about, and why should you consider looking into it any further? Well, for one reason, in recent
This is
times,
crazy.
people's appetites have been reawakened to highly immersive TV series like Game of Thrones or movie franchises with a decent backstory. 40K goes
There's so much
considerably far
artwork.
beyond these examples. It is one of the biggest miniature war games in the world and features an ever-evolving
Wait, that's
story that
right.
expands in written text, video games, and of course its original and arguably most important feature, the miniatures and its tabletop game. It is created and owned by Games.
Yeah, so it's like a game. I just realized, I think today, that it's like a tabletop game. I thought it was a book. I thought Warhammer 40K was like books. You know? Like a novel series that just got really popular. And it also has computer games, right? Yeah. All these figures. I've never played Halo, but like from what I've heard and seen, it sort of looks like Halo, like super far future. There are a bunch of books too. Wow. Yeah, this is crazy.
Workshop, a UK-based company producing tabletop games and associated materials.
I'd like to really dive in the future.
Now, I will cover elements of 40K as briefly as I can today, but I
Chunky.
won't skimp on detail just for the sake of time. It's as to the point as I can make it, but if you want to know more about
And these are all the
specifics here on my
figures.
channel, I've covered in detail some of the core background areas of the game, which is continuing to expand. I'll also be continuing to produce these short primers to the
But yeah, go check out Luetin's channel, absolutely. All this artwork. Like, these character designs are so much more detailed and prettier. Like, okay, they're scary, but like, they look pretty.
world of 40K, and I'll also be continuing to make the longer form content which is featured regularly here on the channel. Often referred to by those already consumed by
hobby.
Warhammer 40,000 as the hobby,
The-
40K is not one thing to one person. It is a highly detailed narrative spanning multiple empires, from
Weird.
world-ending galactic campaigns to lowly individual soldier
Affirmative.
stories.
Are these like official videos? I feel like there are trailers I should probably see too. That's crazy. StarCraft was going to be a Warhammer game, but the deal fell through. Weird. Yeah, it's making me think Project Moon, like how dedicated the player base is, but like bigger. If you can imagine bigger than Project Moon, which honestly, it's like not the hugest thing ever. This feels huge. Like
These
it's
are series
everywhere.
of usually middle-of-the-road video games with a few standout gems. It's a hobby of addictive miniature painting and crafting, and it is a tabletop war game now established for over 30
Ultramarines.
years. It has spawned a variety of smaller games designed to be played without acquiring a huge army, games like Space Hulk, Necromunda, and Kill Team, and these often require only say 6 to 10 pieces per side and are very accessible for new players.
That's crazy. I love their outfits. I love their outfits. So it's like you choose a faction and you play as the faction in this game. And it's like, it has a really elaborate setting with history and events. That's crazy. That's crazy. They also have fan-made shows, and there's a movie coming. I need to write this down. Maybe we'll have to make a Discord channel for Warhammer. That was from a game screen. Yeah, I love the
Whereas
animations
standard Warhammer
too.
40,000 tabletop may require larger armies with many pieces. Now, before we come to the lore, it is worth looking at the original tabletop game, as this will give you a better understanding of just everything about it. If you've never seen or encountered a tabletop game,
That's
this is
so
not
big.
important. It's actually very simple. Usually 2 players will engage in a battle laid out on a table at your home or a
That's crazy. I think I forget sometimes that like strategy games Arcanite's real-time games are based on like the board game versions. Like this came first. Like, you know when you get an ad in the mail for the longest time, I just didn't put it together. The like computer ads, YouTube ads, phone ads, they're like inspired by those that you get in the unskippable mail ads. Ooh.
gaming venue. The area of play will be set with terrain pieces, often crafted and painted by the players, and they will alternate turns moving their miniature soldiers or vehicles and will resolve engagements through random dice rolls according to specific rules and combinations of preset unit stats. There may or may not be a mission for one side to achieve, and these games can be highly strict or open to player interpretations.
So big. I love this. I really want to try tabletop someday. I think that could be fun. Yeah. That's insane. I'm still not over like the designs, and that players paint these themselves a lot of the time, or like put together their little miniatures. I have a feeling it's like D&D does this too. That's crazy. There was an apocalypse game done before. It started with 2 players and reached 15 people moving. These can last 9 hours. That's crazy.
Players will usually paint their miniature
Doesn't surprise
soldiers
me.
for use on the battlefield.
Doesn't surprise me.
These can be in a variety of factional designs and colours. Some people prefer their involvement in 40k to be focused entirely on this hobby of painting, designing and modifying
It's
these
so
miniature
cute.
units. And this part of 40k can be just as all-consuming as the lore or the tabletop. Some
The little heart on the flag, the little matching outfits. I know they're like scary, they're intimidating factions, but they have matching uniforms. That's like kind of cute when you buy your whole squad, you and your bros by yourselves, and like matching outfits and costumes. It's kind of cute.
Some may choose to split their time between each part or devote all their hobby time to one piece of the whole 40k hobby, be that the lore, tabletop or the painting
This must be so
element.
expensive.
Now comes the challenge for me,
The
summarising
setting.
40k. So Warhammer 40,000 is set in the distant future, a future beset by galactic war from a skirmishing city turf war level through to planetary conquest and system-wide campaigns fought through its space and planets. It is far more pessimistic than most other deep lore universes and also regularly bordered.
It's so grim. I say as I pause here, you can't see someone's face getting like shattered behind me. Maybe that's a good thing for YouTube. But yeah, it seems like it's like they're medieval forces too from space. And it's like in the future. So like alien groups, like super far.
On what you would describe as space horror. Now 40k is primarily focused on humanity, which has through many thousands of years achieved
We're still
an
around.
unimaginable level of technology.
We
And they
survived.
lost the majority of this zenith through a devastating war. Humanity after this ancient war was left broken and fragmented across the galaxy. It would be later reunified by one godlike individual known as the Emperor of Man. And he would set in motion the new order for mankind.
This is the Emperor. So this is the Emperor. I've heard people talk about the Emperor so much. Yeah. Thanks for the super weird. Ricky's every 40k faction. It's a better intro. I'll have to watch that soon too. No real hope and no one's got it. I like that it's like you can see all the perspectives. Or like if that's what you mean. I love stories like that. Where like no one's totally in the right. You can sort of understand where everybody's coming from. Those are just incredible, I think.
Known as the Imperium of
The
Man.
Emperor.
But a devastating civil war known as the Horus Heresy would befall mankind
Civil
before
War.
the Emperor could complete his goals for humanity.
There's so much just in these like art depictions alone. And the fact that there is so many. It's like also their quality. It's like we're looking at a history book. It's like for the Renaissance, or it reminds me of medieval history that I didn't really pay attention to. Yeah. That's insane. So all these like eyes opening on the armor.
And he would instead now become a living corpse enshrined on Earth or Terra. Humanity would become shattered by this civil war, and after a slow, painful recovery, it has become for the longest time a stagnant civilization. Suffocating under its own bureaucracy, the Imperium has begun making the smallest steps toward advancement in the most recent days of its history, but it still stands as a strange juxtaposition of ancient tech that is beyond the comprehension of many of its citizens. It is a weak and precarious civilization,
Yeah, it sort of seems like humans got really, really far, like just so much technology, and then they like fell apart and kind of regressed all the way back to like swords and spears and sticks and stones. Like not quite, because they can still go through space, but like a lot of it feels like a fiefdom or Like there's royalty, and a lot of common people just kind of get stuck into a cycle. Yeah. Just a really depressing and messed up short story.
Simultaneously able to wield immense military power. Humanity itself,
And they have
through
tanks for some
thousands of years
reason.
of conflict with alien races who are more often than not excessively hostile, has become a highly xenophobic race. It views almost all other races as needing to be exterminated and has almost no morals or ethics as to how this is to be achieved. The
That's
galaxy-spanning
rough.
empire of humanity is essentially a totalitarian state that worships the Emperor of Man. The Imperium of Man has
There's now a
large, if not
corpse.
complete control over its citizens, including many aspects of their lives, economy, social life, education, private lives, science, and indoctrination into its ideology.
That's so creepy. Maybe I'll like leave humanity. Maybe I'll fly somewhere else, somewhere safer. I have a feeling everybody's in a sort of like, there are some good things, but there are also some horrible things about our civilization. It's like there are drawbacks to every group. Yeah, like you have so much, you have so much unity and this emperor, but also you hate everybody else. And you just get indoctrinated. It's normal. You'll be fine. Wow, super gods.
They who are not seen to be a
Super
follower of the
gods.
Emperor may and will be persecuted as heretics, and this is often largely open to interpretation and leads to large-scale abuses of power and executions. The Imperium uses this deeply entrenched worship and imperial ideology to control and mobilize mass populations of its citizenry for its armies like the Imperial Guard and Imperial Fleet. It also will utilize its citizens to fulfill whatever role is needed. These roles can and often
Whatever
are
role.
fairly unpleasant, especially
So, yeah, it feels like an ant colony. Warhammer's the reason why orcs are green. Thanks for the soup. Is this true? Is Warhammer's like so old, or like was so iconic that orcs are green because of Warhammer? That's crazy. Also the fact that, like, again, it's like this like blind worship or whatever in this emperor, and it just makes them do whatever. It's sort of like ants for the queen or something, like an insect colony.
whatever role is needed. These roles can and often are fairly unpleasant, especially when the rule of law is often severe and absolute. Humanity also wields in its arsenal the Emperor's greatest gift, the military sledgehammer known as the Imperial Astartes. These are the iconic Space Marines, genetically enhanced superhuman warriors who represent the pinnacle of human.
They look like bionicles or something. Wow. Say you're paranoid without saying you're paranoid. Yeah, it almost feels like the humans had this they had this falling out with everybody else, like in the galaxy, in the universe, and they said never again. We're locking our room. We're bolting the door. It feels like guns to the extreme. Yeah, like the neighbor who has like private property fences with spikes. Yeah, they had one bad experience and like this is where they went.
Human modification and military power. Their forces have access to some of the most powerful weapons and force multipliers humanity wields. Much of this tech is ancient and requires careful care and repair by specialists dedicated to retaining this critical knowledge. But as powerful as humanity is, even with its small progression in its most recent times, it still stands on the edge of annihilation by various alien races or entities. Humanity somehow has survived to this point despite being on an almost permanent risk of complete destruction and forced extinction. Within the lore, this has nearly happened on multiple occasions, and what is left of humanity now in the Imperium of Man are the remnants of those survivors.
So humanity just keeps like almost getting wiped out. Of course they would be upset. Of course they'd be mad at everybody. But maybe that's why they're getting wiped out. Have you ever thought about this? Maybe everybody hates you because you hate everybody. They need to learn and be better. Yeah. Astartes, yeah, they're so huge. They're like the blue suits or whatever. They're so huge. But it doesn't seem like they're like a ton because they're all ancient and they have to be like repaired. Yeah. Physically bigger.
Highly ignorant, fearful people in a fairly constant state of decay where critical technological information is often lost. The Imperium and humanity's primary goals are to locate lost technology from the zenith period of mankind, known as the Dark Age of Technology, otherwise referred to as the Golden Age. It also focuses...
The Golden Age will come again. The Golden Age. It's coming. It's coming. I love the blue suits. It's like the Fallout power armor, but on steroids. So they're going back to find like zenith equipment and technology, or maybe like for fighting or like for their cities. And it seems like they keep losing lots of tech, but they're just like trying to explore and get enough power back to at least be stable or safe. And that's sort of their goal. So not necessarily wiping out everybody, just surviving. Just surviving, that's our goal. And like finding treasure, that sounds kind of fun.
Upon the continued defense and expansion of its territories, and of course the extermination of all alien races, known collectively as the Xenos.
The Xenos. The Xenos, creepy.
Because humanity has become so violently and ignorantly xenophobic in the far future, it also has no qualms about committing planetary levels of genocide. If you're not human and don't worship the Emperor, then you are the enemy, a heretic, and must be exterminated. Diplomacy is almost not a thing for the Imperium, and the usual recourse is to just shoot on sight. In fairness though, there was a time where humanity had attempted a more diplomatic approach, but this over time has just disintegrated, with most of its contact with aliens resulting in some kind of conflict. It now simply believes all other life must be extinguished, or at the very least dominated and enslaved for work or experimentation.
That's crazy. It reminds me of like in every history book, where you go back and read like about a king or royalty or like a queen or whatever, and like how maybe there was a good ruler for a country for like a year or two or like a decade, and then it just plummets. Like people get power hungry or money hungry or something, or like war hungry, and everything just falls apart. That's kind of what it seems like is happening here. Yeah. Once they were harmony before chaos. Aww.
These cases are usually quite rare. There are 6 other races that are seen as the enemies of humanity. Any of these factions can be played by you within the tabletop game of 40K or models for collecting and painting. Some players will dedicate themselves entirely to one faction, building it up, fleshing it out to the limit of their model making ability, and others may have multiple armies of different factions.
These all look so detailed. Someone was saying in chat, this must be so expensive. How expensive is this? Like, I've never bought a model or a mini to, like, I don't know, like play a game like this. And you buy like a full army. That's insane. That's insane. The orcs are just born from spores. Is this why? Is this why you think I'm an orc? I'm no flower. I swear. I'm not a mushroom spore. Maybe Phora orc is real. Phora orc, fork. That's so cursed. The Necrons.
The Necrons are a very ancient race, strange creatures that appear like metallic skeletons. They're actually formed of living metal. They span the galaxy and are in a continuing state of awakening from their tombs after many thousands of years.
Like mummies.
Of sleep.
Yeah. It's just like... This is like those theories about like pyramids being from aliens. It's like, yeah, aliens came thousands, millions of years ago, and they landed, and they made pyramids, and they've been sleeping. They've been sleeping. 40K orcs are fungus. Yeah. Living metals. That's so clever.
They seek to rebuild their empire and dominate
like
the
as a
galaxy.
concept.
One of their key abilities is that of reanimation. They can reassemble themselves after death and fight on. They're also generally mindless automatons. How this came to be is another story. The Games Workshop has seen fit to recently rename some of its units, largely it seems for legal reasons, but since forever this faction has been known as the Eldar. More recently it was known as the Eldari, but basically it's the Eldar. These are derived from the elves of many more fantasy games and are basically space elves.
Space elves. So we have like these mummies that are all like possessed, but they used to be individuals and now they're like just mindless. I feel like we just kind of glossed over that. I really should watch Bricky's video. If the Egyptian mummies woke up and found squatters on their line. It's like somebody dies. It's like that one neighbor who's like, get off my line. Like dies, but also still keeps watch over his line. Yeah. Yeah.
Despite this quite simplistic analogy, the Eldar have a rich and tragic lore. Because of past disasters that have left the Eldar with no homeworlds to speak of, they now travel the galaxy in vast ships known as craft worlds. The Eldar wield powerful weapons, but are generally physically weak, and they also have immense arrogance towards other races. Their defining feature, and to some degree their biggest flaw, is that the Eldar are very powerful when it comes to psychers and psychic abilities drawn from the warp.
The warp. Drawn from the warp. So I think this is just like a quick intro to a few species. The elves seem a lot like humans. You know, like high and mighty, seeing themselves above other like species or like groups. Yeah. Weird.
The Dark Eldar are essentially space pirates who live lives of excess and sadistic
Space pirates.
porn. Anyone who looks like they're about to be captured by the Dark Eldar is rarely something that you would want to contemplate, and suicide would generally be significantly preferable. A faction of many faces.
So, okay, I feel like that we're just like getting a brief introduction. So space pirates who torture, NSFW torture. Yeah, not safe for work, torture.
Contradicting goals. Chaos is as its name describes, and it originates from the parallel dimension known as the warp. And this dimension is a reactive plane of existence that absorbs the most powerful emotions and desires of mortal creatures. The reactive immaterium would lead to the birth of entities of godlike power, the Chaos Gods. They each focus on specific mortal desires. Khorne is the god of blood, representing war, rage, and...
Is it Khorne or Khan? Khan, the god of blood, or Khorne? Khorne. That's crazy. So, like, creatures made from human emotions and experiences. Maybe, like, pain. It is Khorne. It's actually Khorne. Khorne, the god of blood. Yes, Khorne. Blood for the Khorne god. Yeah. That's so creepy. So... it's like humans manifest, or not just humans, but like anything that has emotions manifested these. And the warp is like just something that a lot of creatures get powers from. Yeah. Pronounced as Khorne. That's the best thing ever. Whoever made this choice. That's so funny.
And hatred. Tzeentch is the changer representing ambition, scheming, conspiracy, and sorcery. Nurgle is the plague god representing mortality, morbidity, and...
is there like a good god? Or like, okay, like positive emotions? Are there any of them? Like joy, happiness, that feeling you get when you try a warm snack for the first time in a day, like after you like have a really long day, you come back home, you eat something, or you step into a shower. Is there a god for that feeling? The feeling of snuggling up as a burrito? Yeah. Those are emotions. Totally. I think most of the Eldar gods got killed.
Despair, and Slaanesh is the god of lust, greed, excess, pleasure, pain, and perfection.
Yeah, these feel like
desires and emotions of the
like deadly sins or something, like the 7 sins or whatever. Yeah. Good God, there's only the God Emperor. Oh yeah, they said the Emperor was very godlike. Like a really tall Emperor. I wonder what the story is.
Galaxy's inhabitants sustain these entities. However, they also reach out into the mortal realm through their manifested entities made from the warp known as demons. These hellish creatures are enough to send ordinary citizens insane on sight.
On sight? On sight? I guess we're not ordinary citizens. Look at us. Look at me making eye contact with these demons. They don't look that bad. Yeah, they're just a lot of tongue. Just a lot of tongue, okay? It's like butterflies with their long tongues, or hummingbirds. Yeah. The more I look, the creepier they get. They're not that. I say they're not that bad. We'll just move on. We'll just move on.
They're backed by traitors to the Imperium, the corrupted Chaos Space Marines. The gods of chaos and their agents can also infect the minds of mortals, and often cults and worshippers may spring up on planets across the Imperium. This is again one reason why the Imperium of Man is so ruthless about purging heretics, while chaos itself in the material...
Oh, because they're afraid others could become cult members and taken over. I kind of see where they're coming from. I kind of see her. If you can just take over like anyone's mind, then of course everyone's going to be sus of everybody here. That's insane. Yeah, heresy detected. I said nothing.
Appears
I
as
said
one
nothing.
enemy that simply wages war. It is in fact in an internal conflict within itself. Each of the Chaos Gods fights for
internal
domination over
conflict?
the others, and this occupies the majority of their focus and energy. Each god's ultimate goal is complete domination of the Immaterium, a goal which seems unattainable and dangerous to their own existence were it to come to pass.
I wonder if you could play as the gods too. I bet you can. It's like different cults. That's crazy. Okay, so many different plot lines. Let's just let them focus on arguing with each other while we're down here just surviving. Let's let these deities just hang out with each other. We'll just like sneak over, sneak away. Yeah.
Chaos is one of the most varied and pervasive forces in 40k and has many forces
Chaos.
operating under its banner. Some dedicated to a specific god, others that simply worship chaos undivided.
Orcs. Okay, you have to see how this is written. You have to see this. Orcs. Favorite. They're the best. Orcs. How are they not lovable? How are they not the best things ever? You're so cute too. Aww.
Now everybody knows the orcs, right? Middle-earth and all that crap. Not these orcs. These are more Mad Max Fury Road crossed with
Fury.
British football hooligans, and then you're in the right ballpark. Also in space.
British
Space
football.
orcs are likely a genetically designed species focused for
Genetically designed.
hyper-violence and to be almost impossible to permanently exterminate.
So cockroaches. So cockroaches with the guns and spikes and tanks and whatever they drive. I mean, they're cute. Yeah. Yeah, you have to look at them in the right angle. Yeah, they're cute orcs. They're lovable. Yeah, head pats for the orcs. That's right. Let's start a head pat train for the orcs. Hope they like hot dogs.
They are as hilarious as they are dangerous, and their entire society focuses around casual violence. The orcs
Casual
are also
violence.
probably the most sunny and optimistic of all races,
Aww.
strangely. Their genetic disposition sets them to see things as generally good and enjoyable, especially when it comes to fighting. And they never really see failure as a negative, because it means you just get to have another go later.
See, they're so positive. These orcs have the right mindset. Everybody else out here, hopeless, the world's gonna end. What are we doing? Or like, we have to kill everything and take over. The orcs, let's just fight and have fun. The orcs are like the players of this game. Let's just fight and have fun. The orcs are like breaking the fourth wall. They see the players, they're like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want too. Listen to Gone Ports by Portaboy. I'll have to add this to the list. Wait until you see their Warrocks.
They also
They're so cute.
operate more on instinct by design than learned knowledge, and their willpower becomes more powerful the more orcs are present, meaning when they are collected en masse, they can literally will things to be true by collective belief. They
Just to manifest a victory. They're so delulu, they can pull 6 stars. In gacha games, they're so delulu in the best way.
also have a strange ability to just cobble together vehicles and weapons from scrap. They also have no real governing structure. Leaders are chosen by progressively being better at smashing their rivals' heads in, until an orc eventually reaches the position of being a war boss. When orcs collect in huge numbers, they may launch a massive campaign of raiding and attacking anything that's not orc by launching a warg, essentially a huge,
warg?
no-holds-barred slaughter fest. Anything in the way, best dig in or get the hell out.
Oh, and that's the orcs. Wow. Next are the Tau. I love the orcs. They're the best things ever. Would I survive in the orc world? Probably not. I'd get clobbered every day, but if I were an orc, I would enjoy it. I would think to myself, wow, this is such a great day. Because it means I get to go try again. I get another free gacha pull today. Maybe I'll win a fight. Maybe I'll survive. Maybe I won't get picked on. Orcs the happiest race in 40k. Yeah. You wouldn't survive. Maybe that's true. I feel like in a story that focuses on like societies more than individuals, it means like the individuals don't survive. Like a story that's zoomed out enough to focus on like countries, Like it means like the humans, like not the humans, the individuals of each group might not be important enough to like survive super long, or like important enough to the full story. It's more about like the groups.
Tau are one of the newer races and are fast learning that the galaxy
Tau.
is not a friendly place. The Tau operate similarly to the Orcs on a more optimistic level, but that's about as far as their common ground with the Orcs goes.
They seem
because the Tau
nice.
exist on the fringe of the Imperium and are unusual as they actively encourage other races to join their cause. They collectively follow an ideology known as the greater good. This is their
The greater good.
guiding principle that working together is better than working against one another.
I feel like this is gonna turn. It's gonna take a turn. Like a downside, sort of like. Okay, it's like, yeah, they're working for this greater good, but it's like a cult, or it's like there's some other scheme. Because there always is. With every faction so far, it's like, yeah, they have this going for them, but ... Yeah, just slap the Tau and they die. I mean, they do seem friendly and like willing to work with
This leads
others.
to a stronger, more peaceful society. However, anybody who disagrees with this best prepare for war. To be fair,
Can they
though,
fight
the Tau
others?
do usually attempt significant levels of diplomacy before declaring their target a lost cause. Their military is largely focused around technology and ranged combat, something often mocked and
Range.
derided by their enemies. The Tau themselves are comparatively weak and use other races absorbed into their faction to fight in close quarters.
So they have like every group, like bits of every race or like every species, like grouped together. Wow, it's amazing what you can justify with the greater good. Yeah, I have a feeling that the Tau might just make it through all the way to the end. Yeah, just a crazy theory. The Tyranids.
Tyranids are an unusual exception to all previous Xenos. They do not operate on an ideology, a
exception.
political structure, or debatably a single leader. They are the most Xenos of Xenos and have begun a steady invasion of the galaxy. They are presumed to have arrived from beyond the borders of the known galaxy and
Beyond the
are hostile in the
borders?
extreme.
They have ships that are like giant creatures.
Do not wield any technology as we would understand it, or their ships, forces and weapons are biological in origin. Tyranids are one of the
Biological.
most nightmarish factions within 40k. Their
So
singular goal
creepy.
is biomass, that is to strip planets of all biological and mineral materials, leaving them barren, dead husks. They assault planets with extreme prejudice and will not cease their assault unless they are damaged to a point where their acquisition of biomass becomes negative to that being expended. They use all material to birth their forces on their vast bioships.
Biomass. And they just keep like birthing forces on their ships. That's crazy. The bugs. Yeah. It's so weird. So they're like a locust swarm that just like flies in and eats everything and then leaves. Ah. I mean, honestly, if I had to pick a faction to join, maybe I should pick this faction, the Tyranids. Because if you're on the Tyranid side, you're probably safe. You're probably so safe. With them, easy.
And recycle their own units by dissolving them back into the pool of biomass, which then they draw to create anything else they may
Oh,
need.
creepy. Like Alien.
They absorb the genetics of all that they encounter and use this to evolve and create more hostile and efficient
Absorb
creatures and
genetics.
biomachines to achieve their goal. They may also seed and infect planets ahead of time to often use the planet's own inhabitants against themselves when the Tyranids arrive to
Against
destroy the
themselves.
world.
Oh, I see. Using the inhabitants against themselves. So you zombie-ify people or creatures. That's so creepy. And it's like speed evolution. Where they're just taking like the best genes from everywhere and just slowly getting more ideal. Maybe. Slowly more ideal. You can't side with them, they'll eat you. But maybe. But if they eat me, I'll become them. Yeah. They take my genes and suddenly there's 4 genes. There's the 4 genes in the Tyranids. Which means I'm a Tyranid. Yeah. Right? Sort of they melt you. But then I'm like an ingredient in their stew or whatever. Yeah, like throwing a pinch of Phora. And I'm there somewhere. Yeah. They eat Phora and become a VTuber. That's funny. Yeah, VTuber Tyranids. Yeah, you won't come for me. I'm on your screen. They'd eat a TV trying to reach me. They'd eat a computer.
The Tyranids are controlled en masse by something called the hive mind. This is
The hive
essentially a
mind.
broadcasted collective consciousness that enables them the powerful skill of being able to operate as one, but made up of millions of individual entities across a planet. The Tyranids are horrific, seemingly unstoppable, and have already wrought terrible destruction upon many others across the galaxy.
That's crazy. Also, I'd be part of the collective conscious. I'd have like one vote, but I'd be there. I'd be there saying, "Yippee, sleepy, let's take a nap." That's what I'd be saying.
Many rumour that their already devastating campaigns are only the initial scouting parties to the Milky Way galaxy, and if this is true, the
Initial
Tyranids could be the
scouting?
ones to end everything.
Okay, they're just scouting from somewhere else, like the Milky Way galaxy. So they're like in a different galaxy here. So there's like a really big world here. That's crazy. And if that's the case, there are probably other really big groups from other places or galaxies. Yeah, such a big world.
While not wanting to touch on the
Psychers.
subject of psychic power too strongly in this video, many factions in 40k feature what are known as psychers. These are essentially
Psychers.
individuals who can wield what you might describe in other universes as magic powers.
As I can hear the quotations in the narrator's voice as magic powers. It's like reluctantly. Yeah, there's magic here. It's fine. It's fine. If you're in the collective consciousness, you'd know what it's like to be us. The Jedi of mind. Are you all Tyranids? Is Tot just a collective Tyranid hive mind? I wonder. But psychic
Some factions have
powers.
strong psychers and others have none, and these powers are drawn from the parallel dimension known as the warp or the immaterium.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So there were powers from this like manifested parallel dimension of emotions and deities and like different. So this isn't a faction, but it's like people. Like different people have these like gifts or powers. Yeah. We're bugs. You're my starbuds. Yeah. You're the Starbucks. Starbugs in chat.
Individuals who can use these powers do so at considerable risk, as the warp is an unstable and dangerous realm. The relationship between real space and warp space is a complicated one and can affect many aspects of life in the far future, but this is something best covered in another video.
Best in another. We're already to the end. Okay, before we get to the final thoughts, it sounds like, so this warp dimension, it like gives powers. It's sort of like the back rooms, another dimension that maybe could be useful in the future for like travel or storage or whatever, or getting lost and captured by something. Yeah. And these powers like have different effects on the people who wield them.
But this is something best covered in another video.
Final thoughts.
The takeaway for you today is that Warhammer 40,000 is a world of vast-scale warfare and complex interfactional and internal factional power
Yeah,
struggles.
it's so big.
40k is by its very nature often absurd to the extreme. Sometimes this can be somewhat detrimental to its own narrative, because when everything is supersized and extreme in the extreme, suddenly everything looks kind of the same, and then it becomes arguably less impressive. However, 40k just owns its own absurdity, and it's something that you just have to roll with and suspend your disbelief.
In the best way possible. It's like anime. Like those animes where it's like, you haven't seen my true power. Unveils their second form, their super form, their golden X form or whatever. It's like anime. So nothing new. Nothing new.
Many who are obsessed with 40k, the hyper-violent, xenophobic, genocidal nature of its occupants is largely a source for much dark humour. Most people that are into Warhammer, they don't take it too seriously, but it is also fun to take things
Dark
in 40k
humour.
very seriously, because it contains so much detail. But simultaneously, there are many memes and pure nonsensical comedy that comes from 40k because of just how extreme it is. The classic It Sounds Like Heresy being one such example.
Sounds like heresy. Yeah, it seems like there are so many inside jokes, and it's like, I think in a lot of fandoms, it's like this. There are like so many dark stories or like parts of a fandom or a universe or characters, and you have to joke about it. You have to joke about it to get by. Because if you think about it too much, it's just a lie. There's also that with fast traveling. Wait, they travel through warp? Warp travel, warp terrain. I can't go down Project Moon and Warhammer at the same time. I can't go down both at the same time. That's overload. Heresy.
Example whereby anyone who dissents from the official line of thinking is declared a heretic and executed on the spot. It's one that I enjoy using all the time in the comments. And the key theme of 40k is purely about war. The lore is a vast, all-encompassing backdrop that stands on its own. But 40k for itself is all about
Warhammer.
wars that are unending.
Warhammer, not
peace hammer. The
Peacehammer.
background for a tabletop war game that is surprisingly about factional war. 40k itself operates on a fairly healthy dose of irony. Much of the events and organizations, forces and individuals often are the result of half-truths or pure indoctrination. And some of those that are held up as heroes are not what they appear to be.
Yeah, it's like so many, there's so many sides to the story. Also Undyne. Is that Undyne in the middle? But yeah, I love how complex the story seems. And like, yeah, you can get super deep into it. You can find out all the motivations and reasons why a character is doing what they're doing. Or you can just play a fun game. You can play a fun space chess game. Yeah, with heresy memes. With spaceships, not trains. I guess that's a little safer. Maybe.
Not what they appear to
Maybe.
be. And as usual, the context of events are very important, but many things can end up being actually quite subjective. The fact that the Imperium itself has, through its devout worship of the Emperor, now has its state religion embedded in almost everything it does, which is hilarious when you consider the Emperor of Man set out to eradicate religion from humanity entirely. Warhammer 40k draws a lot of historical events and ideologies. It also borrows heavily from other settings like Dune, 2000 AD, Lovecraftian influence. Obviously,
there's so many. Okay, I need to get into Dune, 2000 AD.
Tolkien, and even older texts like Milton's Paradise Lost and the Divine Comedy with Dante and the Inferno.
You can't just mention Dante and the Inferno without me thinking of Project Moon. You can't just do this. Dante.
40k
Dante is here
continues
too.
to be fleshed out over time, and it shows
Or like in
no
spirit
signs
and
of
inspiration.
abating. If anything, it's moving forward at a faster pace than ever. It is a universe that has consumed me for some 30 years, and I highly recommend
30
that you
years?
allow the darkness
It's a
of the far
30-year-old
future to enter your life.
It's a 30-year-old series. 30-year franchise. I thought this was like a more recent thing. Like in recent years, people like wrote books. This was my first impression. Like before going into this, I thought Warhammer 40k was like a book series. And this is gonna sound so dumb. And it was like it started because there were 40,000 words in the book. That's what I thought. That's what I thought, like 40,000. But like, why would you write a book with specifically 40,000 words? Like a really big book or a series. Like, yeah. But it's a tabletop game. It's old. And this video that's true, it's like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, those were my assumptions, but they've successfully been
You may
cleared.
live to regret it, but you
They've
will
been cleared.
undoubtedly enjoy it. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you have a suggestion for what my next 40k primer should be, tell me in the comments. If you want to learn more about Warhammer 40,000, check out the video on the end screen to the left, or my collected playlist of content to the right.
Yeah, go check out the rest of these videos. Okay, I have to speak for myself. What's that really long story called that keeps getting updated? It's like you're a something fan. It's like the really long internet meme, but it's like a story, and it's like really badly written, but like people get like it's like thousands or millions of pages. I thought it was like that. Like it started as this like really long, continuously updated story. That maybe started with 40k words. But what's it called? A lot of people got bent out of shape. Oh, there's an explicitly femme faction. I mean, go for it. Nice. It's not Everdark. It's something. But yeah, okay. Perfect. We can switch to the next video. But what is this series called? It's like, it's something. So for the next video, we could I think there are history videos. I think we can pick something else. I'm seeing Bricky's video here. I think we'll do Bricky's video like next week or something. Dark Tides. It's not Dark Tides. It's like a guilty pleasure. I'll think of it. I'll post it somewhere once I find it. Which one? So I guess we could just learn about factions a little more, or history, dark beginnings. I think we have time. We could maybe fit a couple of videos, like 2 more. And I don't plan on watching like this full playlist on stream. Go support this channel yourself. Luetin is super talented. Yeah, maybe a couple more for like intros. Bricky's is more digestible for viewers. You'll understand more with Bricky. Okay. Well, in this case, since we've already like committed to the bit, I think we can find like a couple more. Maybe something more on history then. If Bricky's is about factions, then we could watch more history. Astartes. Could try Grey Knights. Let me write these down for next time. Okay. And then we'll dive into the next one. Grey Knights. Astartes. If you want quick, check Old Man Lore. 5-ish. Okay. Old Man Lore. The Space Marines. There's so many groups. Okay. Writing all of this down. Old Man Lore, 5-ish minutes. Okay. So this video, Dark Beginnings, we could see like the beginnings of the world and maybe something else. I see the Astartes. I see the orcs. Astartes. This is an hour-long video. Oh, Astartes is the Space Marines. What if we just watch Astartes? We watch this beginning video and then Astartes, and next time we can move on to something else. This is 40K Astartes history, Primarch to Primaris, and the Space Marines. Okay, I think this seems good. This seems good. Please go check out this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Perfect. Okay. Well, here goes nothing. And the quality dipped for some reason. But I think we're good. We're so back. We're so back. Pull up your own stream. That'd be funny. Streamception. So these all start the same way, huh? I'm not sure it's that dark of a future. It's kind of creepy. But there's hope out there.
Sons, and in them will live the hopes of a unified humanity. Theirs will be the strength to prevail, not only when victory lies within easy reach, but even when it seems unattainable, when doom settles like a shroud all about. In those times of darkness, my noble sons will shine the brightest of all.
That's crazy. History of the Primarch, Space Marines, and Primaris. Yeah, it seems like what they're going for. It's not peace or like a brighter future. It's just victory, just win. Which matches with a fighting game, with a war board game. Read. Yeah, read. So these are the Space Marines. The indoctrinated humans who purge the heretics. Oh, precursors. There's so much lore.
The
There's
Age
so
of
much lore
Strife
here.
was a period of collapse for human civilization. The galaxy-spanning empire brought not only to its knees, but left crawling across the ground, broken.
Is this like a corpse? So yeah, this is after humanity like collapses. It reaches out to the stars. We meet other races or species, and like things go really badly. And humanity's, it's also, yeah, we're like fragmented. So humanity's on different places. It's not like Earth. It's like spread out across different parts of the galaxy. I don't know anything about 40K. So we're in this boat together, Phora. They kind of remind me of the Enclave. Doesn't seem that dark. It really doesn't. I say looking at a corpse.
And bloodied. Hope had been all but extinguished, and those who remained either knew nothing of the remnants scattered across the galaxy, or
is that a
considered them
head?
lost amid the firestorm of horror. They entered into a downward spiral where we would see the sometimes literal cannibalization of whatever remained of their former glorious and proud galactic civilizations.
Does that mean we're canon? We're so canon. That means our world is canon in this story, because we're like the history. So we're like before this happened. Yeah, there was this casual board game, just millions and billions of years before this happened. Yeah. And, you know, it just predicted everything. It predicted everything that happened, but yeah, it's fine. The world still ended up this way.
There were dotted beacons of light clinging to the remnants of what had come before, but their hope of ever being reunited was more myth than reality. Out of the decay and ashes rose a figure who came to be known as the Emperor of Mankind.
Yeah, this
It was
emperor.
only by his knowledge, determination and power that mankind would survive. His wisdom and vision would become humanity's guiding light out of the darkness long into the millennia ahead. Many figures and institutions during this time would be...
Yeah, so this emperor just like appeared out of somewhere. Appeared from nowhere. But why? Why did this emperor appear? How did this happen? Yeah, Earth is canon. Oh, 40K means 40,000 years. Oh, I see. Like into the future. So like 30-something, 38,000 years from now. We're so canon. We're so canon.
Become instrumental in the
We're ancient history. We're the good old days.
Future. And this key initial period comes around the end of the 30th and the beginning of the 31st millennium.
31st millennium.
M30, the Emperor's Thunder Warriors were still forcibly dragging humanity back out of the filth it had wallowed in for so long.
Yeah, also something happens to the Emperor because the Emperor was like good in air quotes and then became a corpse. Like this group got infected. Maybe this like group of soldiers. There was that image of like eyes opening, red eyes. Scammed. You're telling me it's not 40K where it's on a book? That's what I thought, Zora. That's what I thought. I thought it was like, it's not Earthbound. What is the series? I'll think of it. There's like an online story. It's like really long. It's a brain rot. And it always gets updated. I thought it was one of those. Doom, was that you? It just sort of looks like Doom.
Having acted as its benevolent liberators, but by harrowing the traumatic force in what was misleadingly titled the Unification Wars. For the only thing unifying about this time would be that the Thunder Warriors' campaign of blunt...
Is this a hand coming out of your face? It looks like an arm is coming out of this creature's face. Oh, never mind. It's on the other side. That's horrifying. So it's like the Tuya or something. It's that one other species that like is trying to unify the galaxy and like fight others who disagree.
Executed upon the surviving remnants of humanity as they rampaged across old Earth, and during this time the Emperor had no need or desire for true or meaningful diplomacy. The days where humanity had seen true civil discussion had ceased long ago, and any dialogue he entered into seemed to be almost philosophical or ideological entertainment purely for his own amusement.
This sounds like a villain.
For all were crushed under his authoritarian dictatorial rule.
Yeah, it's like those villains who are just so strong and smart or powerful or whatever, and they just play with their enemies like toys or something. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm bored. I'll give you a chance, or just not really pay attention to what I'm doing. I'll wax poetic. That's crazy.
There was only ever going to be one truly acceptable choice to be made by settlements upon being informed as to the approaching presence of the Golden Warrior.
He's evil Megamind. This is Megamind. This is Megamind in 38,000 years.
In his army, their choice was simply subjugation or annihilation, and we know all about those who choose to deal in absolutes. The Emperor would enact his will without mercy, and in truth never sincerely entertaining those who presented arguments challenging his right to supreme and unquestioning authority over the lives of all mankind. The Emperor held the firm and defiant belief that his way was the only way forward, leading humanity out from the darkness that had enveloped it. Whilst
it's like follow me here. Follow me, I'll do your homework for you, and in exchange I won't hurt you. Let me just make decisions for you. You'll be fine. Picture the armor with eyes as the Horus Heresier. Well, roughly half the Emperor's sons turned against him. Oh, so like the family split apart. Oh, I see. Is that an Arcanite's reference? The Golden Age sort of is Twilight. Also, hey.
Simultaneously saving it from itself and its inevitable human flaws that he had seen played out across millennia. Once he'd chosen to walk down this path, it seemed certain that for the Emperor, no alternative would be considered. On Earth, the leaders of human settlements and territories who held too much pride or who carried an inflated sense of their own importance would hold hasty discussions. They would raise the expectations of their communities and made grand impressive speeches addressing these reports of an unstoppable army.
Okay, I have to say, this looks so cute. This looks so cute. It's like out of an anime. It's kind of giving Attack on Titan, but like, yeah, just this peaceful settlement. But they're talking about this unstoppable army, yeah?
Which they argued were undoubtedly exaggerated by propaganda and fear. They would tell their citizens how surely with determination and grit they could all pull together and weather this brazen warmonger as they had done so many warlords seeking territorial expansion before him across.
So, it's like this terror keeps happening, war keeps happening because it's Warhammer. And it just keeps happening. And people say, well, we'll just get through. And that's how they get by.
Across the century.
Just be determined, be gritty.
But for those who would listen to the ignorant promises of their so-called leaders, they would only discover the enormity of their error, folly of their pride, as they laid eyes upon the army of the Emperor. His mighty superhuman warriors of thunder standing shoulder to shoulder, an unbreakable visible wall of power. And this would sometimes be enough in and of itself to leave those who thought too much of themselves running screaming from the battlefield in terror. But for others who felt too committed, their poor judgment would become an object
they had to
lesson
keep
in
fighting.
consequence.
Oh, this is the unification. It's like humans fighting each other. Attack on Phora. Attack on Phora. It's like if I were ginormous. Giant Phora, like waddles through a town. Ooh. Like the new generations becoming dumber and dumber. Is that what is happening here?
Even when their obliteration was assured
That's
by means of
crazy.
the initial volley from the Thunder Warriors' proto-bolt guns, the grenade-sized rounds leaving the often largely civilian militia ripped to shreds in appalling horror, this would seemingly not be enough for the Emperor. He would act to ensure that none should ever question or forget his authority as an unbreakable force of will. His Thunder Warriors strode across the battlefield, brutalizing and crushing those who dared to stand against the will of the Emperor, or simply those who remained in their path in the most obscene ways, heads crushed under boots and by fists, eyes gouged, limbs torn, and still living bodies cleaved in two.
They're so
Sights and sounds of
vicious.
the abject horrors rained down upon those who sought to defy the will of the Emperor.
Don't worry, you can live on my pom-pom. If I'm ginormous, if the earth is gone, come live on my pom-pom. It has its own civilization, like Whoville. It's like Horton Hears a Who. You can settle, colonize, civilize my pom-pom. This feels like the futuristic Fallout versus, or like plus FF14. I see.
And enough would survive to flee screaming to tell of the horror, so as to ensure their failed defiance would stand as a stark warning to any who might dare to question or suggest any doubt as to who was the true and destined leader of terror.
Do I need a visa and passport? No, we let you in. Everybody's free. Come on in. I got too tired of playing Papers, Please, like games. I've never tried Papers, Please, but I got too tired of That's Not My Neighbor. Everybody comes in. Come on in. You still stepped on my house. Yeah, but I gave you a new one. It's like the same. It's like if you drop your ice cream and like someone buys it for you because they like saw you drop it, except I made you drop it. And I bought you a new one. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
And who would in the coming years lead humanity through the all-enveloping darkness of this new age? Yet even as the Thunder Warriors battled onward with unquestioning loyalty in their task for the Emperor, one of the darkest secrets of the Imperium would occur. And to be sure, any record of this is long since purged. Anyone with knowledge or suggestion of it, executed.
So the Emperor... Okay, I'm assuming it's like when the Emperor dies, when there's like this rebellion. So now it is just a corpse that's leading everybody. They just think or are made to agree that the Emperor is still alive. PhorArt's being spared the purge. You're your own faction, the PhorArts. The PhorArts. Yeah, you stay on the pom-pom. You have houses. You're super tiny, so no one bothers you. Honestly, if you were just like a super tiny planet in the middle of space that was just microscopic, maybe no one would bother you. Maybe no one would bother you.
For the Emperor had long been developing a new weapon by which he would lead the next phase of his plan to travel beyond Terra and reunite humanity from what he saw as inevitable self-destruction. The Thunder Warriors, effective as they were, had served their purpose as the Emperor's hammer, which he used to reforge humanity from a broken and
The Emperor's Warhammer. The Emperor's Warhammer. I get it. I get it. Wow. Also, they're poofy. The red poofy at the top of their helmets. Kind of nice.
tribalistic people into a united empire. But in order for this to happen, the Emperor would need a new tool of conquest. And this was a role for which the Thunder Warriors were not at all
You
suited,
created this
because it would require
species?
careful planning, coordination, diplomacy, restraint, and even ideological subtlety.
Did they create these other species or these humans, like these blue ones? Because they're newer species that we've heard about. Maybe they were made by humans
Coordination, diplomacy,
originally
restraint, and even ideological
to be
subtlety.
used.
It would be unfair to say that the Thunder Warriors were incapable of such attributes, but they were poorly suited to take on this role. Fantastic fighters, less so diplomats. And even though they were in some respects more powerful than those who would replace them, their short human lifespans would not be compatible with the galactic campaign proposed now by the Emperor.
Short human lifespans. Yeah, I think they either recruit or like create other races or like species. Yeah. To chainsaw sword. Ooh. For a rejected plant. Return to sun. That's right. That's right. Follow us to the golden age, which is just the sun age. That's right.
The one thing we can be certain of is that the Emperor would ultimately have the Thunder Warriors slaughtered, using a final battle at the end of his unification wars as a flimsy cover. This premise is obviously weak, as it seems highly unlikely that a force previously unchallenged could suddenly be randomly obliterated. In fact, some did survive the Emperor's purge and lived on to tell the truth of their experience.
So you used them for a purge, and then you purged them. It doesn't seem fair. You know, you commit your life to following this Emperor, and then the Emperor says, you know, I don't like you anymore. So I'll just put you away. Bye. Just on a whim out of nowhere. That's crazy. You've been doing your job. You've been doing everything right. I don't want you anymore. Bye. That's like a breakup for no reason. Like they just ghost you. But it's worse.
In truth, the ultimate fate of the Thunder Warriors is unclear and how it came about, but it seems the most likely situation is that the Emperor betrayed his Thunder Warriors and slaughtered them, either himself or that he had his custodian guard perform the task who would live on beyond these early beginnings. One other alternative is that the Emperor had not strictly originally sought their extermination.
So there are lots of different accounts of theirs, or like it could have been a lot of things. This is really grey history.
Perhaps he had some other plan, but it's possible the Thunder Warriors learned the Emperor was creating a new force of superhumans. In fact, we know that they know this, and seeing these new, more advanced warriors with extended lifespan, they felt cheated or betrayed, and some rebel against the Emperor, forcing his hand and leading to a final battle of which few would survive. Either way, it is a bloody stain that the Emperor would prefer none remembered.
So it's just like erased. Like you erase your... It's like you say something embarrassing and then delete the post. Oh, congrats, PhorArt. That's exciting. Living on Phora reminds me of... Oh, Nowhere from Guardians of the Galaxy. Weird. I need to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I think I've seen it one time.
Unfortunate incidents
I need to watch it
by
again.
those closest to the Emperor, and for anyone to dare speak of this now would be an almost certain death sentence. Tragically for the Thunder Warriors, neither the premise or trigger for their destruction seems largely relevant now, because whatever the cause, it would still coincide with the emergence of the Emperor's newest warriors.
This was so long ago too. So the Emperor could have used these like new people or creatures or whatever like you create to fight the old ones. Or they rebelled, or they disappeared, or they just like decided not to work for the Emperor anymore all at the same time. But I think it's clear they died. Yeah.
The Astartes. known more commonly of course to citizens of humanity's galactic empire as the Space Marines. In time they would reunite
The
humanity
Space
through the Emperor's Great
Marines.
Crusade.
These
The
are the
ongoing
Space
mission
Marines,
now,
yeah.
as it was then, would be not to lead humanity itself, but to stand as its ultimate defenders, its guardians and wards, even if this means taking some actions to protect it from itself.
Okay, didn't you say narrator? Wasn't it said earlier that the Emperor wanted more diplomatic forces? Are the Space Marines diplomatic? Aren't they still like ruthless and sort of cruel? Am I just misremembering? Is that true? I guess we'll see. I guess we'll
Of
see.
course, in the modern age of the Imperium, the role of the Astartes has shifted to at least some degree, most specifically now that the Ultramarines Primarch has proactively taken over the role as Lord Commander of the Imperium, replacing the stagnant, often self-serving and regularly ineffective council known as the High Lords of Terror. In a wider sense though, the Astartes stand, as they have for some 10,000 years, in the role they were designed for and best suited to as the supreme defenders of all mankind.
Defenders. Yeah, I guess so. Diplomacy. Ah, we'll call it diplomacy. It's in huge air quotes, for real. Ah, look at how diplomatic they're being. This is a great picture of diplomacy in action. Ah, you can see it so clearly in every part of this photo. If I used a clicker or like pointed to this with a laser pointer, I could circle everything. It's all diplomacy. And I don't see anything else happening. Do you? All I see is peacemaking.
Of all mankind.
The Primarch's in chaos.
The Emperor's grand vision for the future of humanity had begun long before his march across Old Earth during the Unification Wars. The Emperor's ultimate and true grand vision can only
The
be guessed
Emperor.
at, but it's something
It reminds me a little of, is it like Caesar who looks like this? Or Caesar who wears the, like, wreath over like their head, like Caesar's people in that title? Or also like in Core Marcel. Great diplomacy, thank you, keeper of face. Yes, please come again.
I'll likely
You have
expand
diplomacied
upon
all over
in
the
next
place.
episode of the Emperor
In the
series.
best way.
From what's required here though, we know that he had planned to create warriors who would reunite and lead humanity into a new golden age, one which would enable them to escape the pitfalls and horrors of the past, and most importantly disconnect it from the fear and mythology that had reared its head and dragged mankind back into the dark ages throughout the Age of Strife.
I love how everybody's in this golden age. They're all just wearing these really heavy suits. It's like the golden age is cosplay. It's cosplay heaven, everybody. You get to wear giant suits. You get to be super tall. Yeah, this is cosplay golden age for real.
Reared its head and dragged mankind back into the dark ages, it from the fear and mythology that had reared its head and dragged mankind back into the dark legions of Space Marines did not merely spring forth from vast production chambers, as did later the Primaris. The first recruits to become Astartes would steadily be tested and eventually recruited from those already on Terra during this time.
So training instead of like birthing, for lack of a better word, were they just like growing them in a pod? The Thunder Warriors before this? Yeah.
To lead each of his legions and act as his closest commanders, he would create the Primarchs. The origin of the Primarch is, at a base level, relatively straightforward. The Emperor would use his own DNA as a template, spliced with other elements that were, at least seemingly in some cases, apparently animal DNA, and this enabled him to produce 20 sons who would in turn become the templates for his new legions.
So you cloned yourself like 20 times. Okay, that's gotta be embarrassing. If you clone yourself and then half of your clones fight back against you, what does that say about you? What does that say about you? Yeah, or 9 of your 20 clones or whatever. It's the Matrix.
These ultimate warriors would be second only to the Emperor himself, and they were, to all intents and purposes,
Shirtless
demigod-like
warriors.
figures. They were not simply powerful warriors, but also imbued with traits that mirrored much of the Emperor himself. Mysterious genetic gifts of seemingly supernatural power, such
Yeah, these eyes. And it's so weird where the Emperor came from. Like, where did the Emperor come from? What happened? Do we know? Modified clones. Yeah. Clones with extra steps. Isn't that just cloning with extra steps and like animals too? So strange.
as irresistible charisma, persuasive diplomacy, or devastating tactical prowess. This, coupled with a vastly extended lifespan, meant that they were as close to being immortal as was possible in what is still technically a mortal human body. They also held near complete resistance to disease or other harmful pathogen, superior healing power, and godlike physical strength.
So they were just like immune to everything. Ah, yeah, we'll just make these clones who never get sick, who are just like super big and buff, and survive everything. Ah. I wonder why they couldn't do that for all humans. Or like, I don't know, like buff people, enhanced people. Maybe it's expensive. This lore is chaotic, it really is. It's, okay, to sort of recap where we've come so far, there are lots of different groups in this world. I think I'll at the end of this stream, I'll try and remember everything. We'll see how much I get wrong. But yeah, it's like lots of different factions. After humans explore, humans kind of fall apart in this war with alien groups. And yeah, there's so many. And like more alien. Like the Tyranids are more alien than others. That.
A Primarch can easily be seen by ordinary humans, despite their personal protestations otherwise, as a godlike figure akin to those of ancient mythology. Additionally, each Primarch holds masterful individual expertise, and that sets them apart from each of their brothers. For example, one Primarch may hold immense psychic power, similarly but not equal to the Emperor himself. Another could exist.
Like the Psychs, or the Psychers? What are they called? So they sort of have... I wonder if each of these have warp powers.
As I said already, unrivaled tactical skill, a mastery of stealth and subterfuge, or a Primarch could even in all respects be a literal embodiment of war itself. But for whatever reason, there was a degree of disparity between each of their personal gifts. Some Primarchs like Rogal Dorn were seemingly dealt the short end of the stick given the godlike mastery of building walls. But as someone with a history of building...
Hey, someone has to build Attack on Titan walls, that's all I'm saying. Someone has to do house building, architecture. You can only build walls, never roofs. Never roofs or floors. You have to work with the others who have their mastery over roof building and floor building. Yeah, it's a tough life, but at least you're good at what you do. That's the best. Oh, they couldn't. Limited genes. Oh, amoebas who undergo mitosis. Look what they need to mimic a fiction power. The tiny genes, or the tiny cells who like what's it called when you do a mitosis? When you mitosize. When you commit an active mitosis. What do you call that? But yeah, they can just clone so quickly.
In the family, I'll always be one to appreciate some good, clean pointing to a bit of a wall. Yet at the same time, doing tidy brickwork doesn't seem on the same level as being a tactical world-building genius like Gulliman, say, or if you were a Primarch of the Salamanders, Vulcan gifted with, just literal immortality as a perpetual. I think...
All I'm saying is these other Primarchs had better be grateful, because everywhere they live, their houses, their races, everywhere with the walls, it couldn't exist without these others. These other wall experts. That's all I'm saying. Cell division. Yeah, when you do a mitosis. Or like when I say, when you do a mitosis. Parthenogenesis. Thank you. Thank you, Weimar.
Whoever was waiting in line after Vulcan was thinking, wow, he got immortality? What gift will I get next? Well, it was Corvus, Primarch of the Raven Guard, imbued with the power of being a master at hit-and-run attacks. He must have been thinking to himself, well, you can't have everything, can you? In all seriousness, though, the Primarchs were gifted with astonishing powers, far beyond mortal capability, and while they were universally superior in all respects, some were unrivaled masters in more traditional matters like warfare and diplomacy.
I love all their designs. They all look so unique. They look really tired. Like they... Some look excited. I feel like they must be so tired. After everything they do, all the pressure, I feel like it's a lot going on.
In stark contrast were those boasting the supernatural traits, but this shouldn't position them in the mind as being any less capable, powerful, or important. The disparity of personal traits seems best interpreted as being perhaps not by design even, because while the Emperor and his gene rights were undoubtedly highly skilled, the fact is that some of his Primarch's DNA believed to have contained what are described as flawed aspects that were not
aspects?
visible
Okay.
at first. Now,
Are you saying that walls are flaws? The people good at building walls are flawed people? Be careful what you're saying. Be careful. I shall undergo mitosis. But yeah, to kind of... So it's like some of these genes were corrupted or imperfect.
Now, it's difficult to know whether it happened at this stage or whether it was a process later of complications around genetic degradation and replication. But whatever the reason, these genetic issues would eventually present themselves in the legions and go on to become problematic, especially for Chaos, but also for chapters of the second founding.
Problematic for
Chaos.
Chaos.
And it points towards one possibility of a more experimental aspect, where not every outcome or consequence of their genetic development of the Primarchs was fully known by the Emperor. I think personally it is reasonable to suggest, and I think it also sits in line with what we know about the Emperor, that he did not fully know the certainty, the outcome of each of his Primarchs.
So this is the Emperor. This is the corpse. It's like dead Emperor who's like barely alive by all these devices, like forced to keep your heart beating, but maybe you're not even alive in there. Okay, we haven't gotten this far, but yeah, weird. The gene seeds are the main organ, implanted that help support extra organs that also get implanted over the course of years. It also gives you attributes. This feels like a game mechanic. You're playing the game, you get to pick a gene seed for some characters.
By using his own DNA, he would likely be gifting each with a very powerful attribute, but he just couldn't know which, and he couldn't know how successfully or stable each Primarch was going to be. I think it sits in line, as I say, with Emperor sometimes appearing to have a definitive plan and a strategy, and at other times just doing whatever he feels in his gut is the best way forward. But before the Primarchs could be fully realised, they were stolen from the Emperor's laboratory and distributed across the galaxy. And this would leave him and his burgeoning legions of Space Marines to embark on their great crusade, finally...
Oh, that's why. That's the goal. This is the old technology that like the humans are after, the Zeniths or whatever. It's all these other Primarchs. That's what they're looking for around the world. With the Emperor. Is he Mr. House from New Vegas? Yeah, this Emperor. There are so many different artworks of the Emperor. I feel like the Emperor always looks different every time. Or like the Emperor is Sans. The Emperor is Sans, kept alive by the throne. I see.
Reuniting these legions with their Primarchs, it should have been the dawn of a new age for mankind, but instead, despite their inhuman mastery of specific traits and powers, it was ultimately the Primarchs' inherent and inescapable humanity, which would be revealed as perhaps their greatest flaw, finally leading to their corruption and downfall. But the result of this heresy was an ever-tightening of the psychic relationship between humanity and those beings which inhabit the very darkest reaches of the war. The Primarch's flawed nature, coupled with the Emperor's inability to see far enough into the future, or perhaps his inability to distinguish which reality was the true path forward, led to his Primarchs nearly causing the destruction of his new empire, and of course...
So, okay. Yeah. So what this is saying is like because these were human patriarchs, or what are they called again? Human patriarchs, not patriarchs. What are they called?
Forward led to his Primarchs nearly causing...
Human Primarchs. Because these are like human Primarchs, that's what made them corrupted. Because they were humans and like had their own desires. The Emperor is Flowey. The Emperor is sort of giving Flowey. Don't pull him that bad. Oh. But what if it is similar? What if this character is similar to another from a different franchise? It's Sans. Sans is the Emperor.
The destruction of his
who sees through different alternate worlds.
Demise.
I won't do
this,
I swear.
Before anybody starts foaming at the mouth, this is of course the condensed basic version of events, and I've omitted a fair few elements because this story is as interesting as it can be glossed over for now with a summary. The more fleshed out version contains the details related to the intervention of Chaos, which would lead us to the events where the powers of Chaos would scatter those still developing Primarchs throughout the galaxy, potentially some were damaged in transit. This would become an additional reason as to why the Emperor would embark upon his Great Crusade, as he would quest to rediscover the Primarchs, uniting them with the Space Marine legions, and more importantly, bringing them back under his command. Yeah,
so it's like the Chaos, like, here's my theory. that 9 of the Emperor's Primarchs, or however many that rebelled, were taken over by the chaos or warp or whatever because the Emperor was too strong. Is that what happened? Phora.org war boss. I'd be the shortest, maybe cutest work or boss ever. I'd love to like find art of that. It's a fan-made Warhammer series. You should watch if the Emperor has text-to-speech. If the Emperor has text-to-speech. Let me look this up. Oh, not now. I'll write it down though. Okay. If the Emperor has text-to-speech. Okay, we'll get to this. Phora. Yeah, for-orc. It's like saying fork with an extra syllable.
Now I should be a little careful here because we're primarily talking about Space Marines and not the Emperor. And this section of history could easily sprawl into multiple tangents entirely about the Emperor, his exploits and grandiose plans for humanity, but the core of the issue is a journey that is generally accepted as having taken place and which occurred before the development of the Primarchs.
A journey before the Primarchs. So, okay. So the Space Marines are, like, now their goal is to find the Primarchs. They replace the Thunder Brigades, or like the Thunder Groups. Before sitting on the Golden Throne. I don't think my feet would touch the ground. I'd be like sitting on the throne. It's a tall throne, isn't it? Where's the Emperor of Mankind? Emperor Fork. That's funny. That should be my name. And like the next game where I can choose a name.
By all available information, this was likely during the Dark Age of technology, where the Emperor, not travelling under that title of course, along with some other companions would visit the world known as Moloch. And I will also just make one aside
young Emperor
here, because I've often seen people asking
this
about
is flashback.
How was it that the Emperor was a giant from our understanding of his physical body in comparison to Astartes and Primarchs? How could he have remained hidden among ordinary humans during the Dark Age and before this time on the old Earth?
Yeah. Where did this Emperor come from? I feel like there could be so many videos and theories. So this Emperor just appeared as... What if this Emperor, this is a crazy harebrained theory, but like came through time from the future? It's like a time loop paradox as a Primarch from the distant future, but like didn't know that you were a Primarch from the distant future? Yeah, maybe. Or like an AU. Welcome to the rabbit hole. We have paint and plastic. Yeah, I'll have to go buy some paint and start making some minis.
Now, I would have thought this was fairly self-explanatory myself, and the answer is because he's the Emperor, but also with someone of his psychic powers even before he visited. It seems reasonable to assume that he was either able to cloud people's vision of his true self. There is the possibility that even before, as I say, his visit to Moloch, his physical stature was just simply different. I would lean in on just his either being able to actually change or control his own physique through his power, or that he was able to just cloud people's mind to his true form.
That's so many powers. Those are so many powers. Wow, Anatolia. That's where he's from. That's right. Also, like a lot of humanity was split apart at this point because they explored and like settled in different places. Unless this is... I think this is after humanity has like their war with like a lot of other species or other factions. This is after humanity fragments because the Emperor is going around trying to reunite humanity. Yeah, it's the Dark Ages. Weird. So where did you come from?
You can really take your
How did you hop in?
Because in the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. So Moloch is where the Emperor would enter a warp portal and emerge with even greater powers and knowledge than he'd held previously.
Portal.
And this is where it's commonly believed that he gained the advanced knowledge required to create his Primarchs, and this was again during the Dark Age of technology.
So bright.
The Emperor is speculated to have made a deal with the gods of chaos to acquire power and knowledge, but never having any intention to fulfill what he actually promised.
So he went to this Moloch portal and maybe had some sort of... This feels like these are all rumors. It's like we overhear a story, or like we heard about this thing happening, and that's all we know because none of us were there. It's like when you aren't the protagonist of a story and you just have to piece together what's going on. The Cyber Rebellion is pretty important. Yeah. He lied and rewrote history.
Maybe he promised the
Maybe
souls
that's
of
true.
humanity, maybe it was his own eternal soul. After all, he was meant to have been formed by a process that, whichever origin story you want to subscribe to, was designed to evade the darkness of the warp. But with all these events, it's something that I believe no one can really ever truly say with any certainty.
So sort of like, weren't there, again, Roman emperors or like Greek emperors? Like people from the past, or like kings or queens or monarchs who had these stories about them to the people. Like, oh, your ruler, your monarch was actually a deity, or like actually spoke with this enlightenment or something, like in real life. Like people like would be told those stories by the government or the ruler, even if it wasn't true. Yeah. So it's sort of like that, but here, just
all the
just lies and rewriting.
But assuming the Emperor did interact with the dark powers of the warp, whatever the Emperor promised for now is to me quite irrelevant. Later down the line, if we have some more information about his grander plans and we have some concrete information there, it may form part of a larger picture and context. But at the moment, it's not the most important point, because what is that he had no intention of honouring it, which subsequently and understandably has clearly angered the entities of chaos. Some believe that the Emperor has always been all-powerful, ever since he was birthed as a godlike entity, and that he simply needed to enter the warp not in order to gain power, but to acquire additional knowledge from the...
It's like, take your choice. Take your choice of all these options. Any of these could be true. Maybe none of them are. That's wild. So this is one reason maybe that the warp deities are mad. Chaos is mad at the Emperor and like came to steal the Primarchs. Was because of this promise that like didn't happen, which understandable. So weird. And also the fact that the story, even 30 years in, is still developing and people don't know everything, like about the Emperor's goals.
In order to create the Primarchs. Or who knows, perhaps there is even some other as yet unknown reason. But I believe that this acquisition of knowledge is certainly an acceptably valid rationalization, and that the Chaos Gods were simply angered by the Emperor's plan and its end goal, regardless of whatever he was doing at Moloch at that specific time. And
also, is this the one time these like chaos deities work together? Like these warp deities work together? Yeah, we'll work together. We'll look past our fighting and differences just to take out this one Emperor. Gaslight Central, real.
This is entirely unrelated to their actions directly. And it is suggested as well that the warp is more than just a sea of souls, but it actually contains the sum total of knowledge in the galaxy, or indeed the universe. Coriel Zeth of the Mechanicum believed that she could access this using her constructed device, which was of course doomed to fail.
So, okay, so chaos, so warp, but might be not just emotions, but also like all the knowledge in the world. And everything, all the souls in the world. Warp might just be everything. Sort of like what people say. Is it a Billie Eilish quote? It's like, when we fall asleep, where do we go? Like a dream world, or like a place where everything's stored. Maybe. Is water with the water? That's a good question. It's a great question. Imps was basically a glorified stage hazard for the ruinous powers. They decided to either join them at the game table or get out, but they were having none of that. Angering the gotcha gods.
So perhaps the Emperor needed
got too
to
lucky
enter the warp via the portal on Moloch in order to reacquire knowledge he knew he was going to need for his projects. And maybe this was the only way he could gain that. We also know that the Chaos Gods will unite and work together when they have a sense of a severe enough threat in material space. So the Emperor need not have literally interacted with them to trigger the response that would come, and while no one should consider it a reliable or unbiased source, it was the Primarch Horus who told us how, at the dawn of the Great Diaspora, the Emperor travelled here in humble guise and found the gateway to a realm of immortal gods.
So all we have are like stories that people have sort of passed down, word of mouth stories that might be a little inaccurate, that might be a little fuzzier or without details. It's actually like history where you don't have all the information. Cheated at poker, took all their money and dipped.
He offered them things only a god in waiting could offer, and they trusted him. They gave him a measure of their power, and with that power he wrought the science to unlock the mysteries of creation. but the emperor had no
You just took
intention of
everything.
honouring his debt to the gods. He turned on them, taking their gifts and blending them with his gene craft to give birth
What?
to demigods. The emperor condemns the warp as unnatural, but only so no other dares wield it. The blood
Such a
of the
big eye.
immaterial realm flows in my veins. It flows in all our veins, for as I am the emperor's son, you are the sons of Horus, and the secret of our genesis was unlocked upon Moloch. The gate...
Yeah. Okay. So you went to this place. You got info on how to like gene craft people, gene spawn people, and that's like why they took the Primarchs. And there's a lot of confusion about why you went or what happened specifically, or why these deities are mad at you. But this is sort of like what people agree on. Stopping your eyes, bad for your eyesight. That's probably good to keep in
gateway to
mind.
that power is in Lupercalia, far beneath the mountain rock, sealed away from the light by a jealous god who knew that someday one of his sons would seek to surpass his deeds. Quoted, of course, from the excellent heresy novel Vengeful Spirit. There are
Excellent
as well
heresy,
demons
yeah.
of the warp who have made mention of these events. Ingathel the Ascended would reveal the primordial truth to Lorgar, and accounts of perpetuals who accompanied the emperor like Olivia Soreka, but in truth who can know the reality of such matters at this point in time, or you might say, will we ever truly know the way things played out?
Yeah. Also the parallels of like these warp deities and chaos or whatever, and they like pass some power to this emperor who betrays them, and then the emperor passes some power to these Primarchs who betray him. And maybe it keeps going. Maybe it's a cycle of war, of like power and betrayal. Yeah.
Version of events can you trust? If the emperor
Once
returned to
ago
life
in the
today
distant
and
future.
laid it all out, could you take his word? Many would. But then, this is the master of mankind who told tales of his thunder warriors being slain in a glorious final battle, when it was probably his own hand, or at least his own orders, that put them in their graves. All we can say with a reasonable assumption is that the Emperor travelled to a warp portal located on the world of Moloch during what is now referred to as the Dark Age of Technology. Later during the Great Crusade, Moloch would be reconnected with mankind and brought under Imperial rule. But the Emperor...
Oh, so it's like a planet or a world. I think I just thought it was like a place. But it's a planet. It's a place they travel to. And now it's part of, or was, at this point in the story, part of like the human realm. Money is money and war crimes are war crimes.
Would extremely suspiciously erase the memory of his Primarchs
War crimes,
who
the
visited
game.
this world at that time, in what appears to have been a bid to prevent his Primarch sons from knowing of or feeling curious enough to investigate the existence of the warp portal.
So you're keeping this
His true
hidden.
motivations for doing this are unknown. It could have been done with the best of intentions to protect his sons from the darkness they would later become immersed in, or it could have been to retain his grip of ultimate power over the Imperium, or who knows what alternative blurred grandiose visions he may have had.
Yeah, so you kept this from others, and at some point somebody found out about this, like this world and this portal. Weird. Yeah. This is such a dark side to like everything that was going on. In our first introduction video of the factions, there are lots of downsides to humans, but like seeing this, I just like all these details. This is a really messy, not like messy, like poorly written, but like messy, like complicated, and a lot of just, I don't know what the word is.
Either way, by the time we reach the period of heresy,
like everyone wants to take over. A lot of everybody wanting to take over. This is what I should be expecting. It's a game, a story with a war in the name.
Horus himself would invade Moloch, also at this time regaining his memory and subsequently entering the portal, and this would then enable him to acquire his immense powers, ultimately allowing him to wound the Emperor so severely so that even now he exists in his state of living death, locked into the Golden Throne on Terra.
So here's the Golden Throne. This is the Emperor who's been like stabbed. This is so creepy. What a handsome looking fellow. I mean, he doesn't look horrible. Okay, he does look kind of horrible, but I don't know if I could even say hear me out. I don't know if I can say hear me out at this point. This is complicated and dark. Yeah. So you're like alive? Is this like... Okay, I've never seen Pirates of the Caribbean, but there's like a there's a version where like there was this skull virus, or okay, I don't know what happened, but like a skull, like a skeleton face on Jack Sparrow's face. Yeah, I feel like I saw something about that.
Now, while some may consider this narrative fairly established, for
It's
myself,
very
I
well.
find the causal situations here to be less important than what would be the results of the Emperor's engagements with the warp, initially to create the Primarchs, and then the ultimate consequence in the scattering of the Primarchs,
The
thus
scattering.
leading to a staggered reunification and a
So yeah, so they were taken away by demons, or like cultists or something, just groups that were under these like warp control. Dead man's chest, I think so. Don't be rude. He just needs a deep tissue massage. Yeah, he's fine. He'll be okay. This is, it's bedhead. It's a bad case of bedhead. He'll be okay. Just give us some time. A full makeover. Just a little freshening up. That's all this man needs. That's all he needs. Living as a dead person, so stinky. Hey, when is the last time you showered? When is the last time you showered? That is the question. That is the question.
Slow bleeding jealousy that would eat away at some of the Primarchs in their view of the Emperor, coupled with, in their eyes, his final abandonment of them. Could the misinterpretation and manipulation by demons related to these events, their cyclical nature as they are seen by those who reside in the warp, the whole sequence of events related to the Emperor, the warp portal, the Primarchs, their cascade into darkness, all fall into a sequence that I've described previously in our exploration of the warp as a causal time loop.
I was saying this. I was saying this. What if there's a time loop? So there is some sort of time loop. It's like a paradox. Yeah. Do demons shower? They'd better.
That is a series of
They'd better
events in
shower.
time with no discernible beginning or end. If you missed this, it was covered in episode 1 of the Dark Origins of Chaos.
Bookstrap paradox. Where does the book come from? Yeah, it's like the book has always been here. The book is the universe. Yeah, someone goes back in time and gives the book to their younger self.
But for the sake of our sanity, I'll put a pin in that. Because another question we might ask equally could be, were the Space Marines just another tool of the Emperor that he had planned to eventually discard as part of some grander plan? The Emperor...
This looks a lot like, I feel like a lot of this imagery, or like the way they talk about humans is in different tribes. It feels very like native peoples of different like continents. Yeah. Or like, yeah. Like this sort of a grouping, like tribal peoples. I feel like this takes like a lot of inspiration from history. Yeah? Bye, Jay. Thanks for stopping by. The command loop only happens when you press start. But who's pressing start? Who's pressing start?
Could be, were the Space Marines just another tool of the Emperor that he had planned to eventually discard as part of some grander plan, just as he had previously done so with the Thunder Warriors? In my opinion, the answer is yes.
Because
but I
of
believe
course.
I'll save my thoughts on both these for the next installment of The Emperor of Man.
Yeah. The Grey Legion's first founding. Also, I'd be suspicious too if you keep getting rid of like the groups that work for you. All your employees disappear suspiciously, and then you hire a new group. Then maybe you shouldn't go work for this person if you have a choice. So this is as far as I can stay. Bye, John. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I think how much is left in this video? I think we'll finish this one. We're 20 minutes in. This is a long one. There's another section. Legions. Heresy. There's so much here. Maybe we'll watch we can watch a bit more. The employees just went on vacation. I think this is a good intro. We can learn about the Astartes Legion. And maybe end here. End at the end of the Astartes. And then maybe next time we'll watch the abridged, great for the intro on the other channel. I wrote it down. There's another good intro to this. Yeah. So perfect. Perfect. There's so much to dive into. So much lore, so much story. The Grey Legions.
The original Space Marines were not a vast force of clones who had been developed and stood ready to be unleashed upon the galaxy en masse. They were slowly developed alongside both the Thunder Warriors and the Emperor's Primarch project.
Oh, so all of these were happening at the same time. And these were clones. These were
In
clones.
the 30th millennium, the efforts of gene rights like Ezekiel Sedaine and of course Amar Astarte were instrumental in the Astartes and Primarch projects. Their extreme efforts worked alongside an entire team of scientists to achieve the demanding requirements of the Emperor, and they spent every ounce of their energy in genetically modifying volunteer warriors for experimentation and development. Many of these would die as their bodies rejected the heavy surgery and forced augmentation as their bodies were split from top to tail on slabs of experimenting laboratories.
That's terrifying. Yeah, who wants to volunteer their life for the cause? Their life for the cause. For the Emperor. Yeah. Any good citizen would absolutely love to do their part. Just like this. That sounds so painful.
The scientists toiled within the Emperor's facilities. Progress was grindingly slow, but they all hoped they would be able to develop stable systems for his new army.
Stop volunteering.
The whole development of the Astartes was very likely impossible
You can do
to a
this.
large degree because of the original director of the Emperor's biotechnical division.
Well, in that case, chat, this is you. You're here. It's a time loop. Somehow you volunteered, and you're here, but you're also in the video.
As Amar Astarte, who gave her name to the project and to the eventual warriors of humanity, and she was one of the greatest scientists humanity has ever known. Likely only the Emperor exceeded her skill and knowledge, and it was her, not the Emperor, who is believed to have developed the prototype for the gene seed organ known as the black carapace, the means by which the space marines interact with their armor at a neurological level.
The face? It's like the way it interacts with the armor.
Enabling them to move and fight as if they were not wearing heavy plates of ceramite. But the black carapace is one of the major differences between Astartes and other power armor wearers like Inquisitors and the Sisters of Battle, the Sororitas. While they can still wear adapted power armor, they are not Astartes, and so their bodies cannot interface properly with the armor and connect to it in the same way.
So Astartes, it's like an extension to their body. Like it's like adding layers of skin. If you could like add muscle layers or skin layers or bone or whatever, that's what it's like. It's like an interface. I volunteer only for the space wolves. At least they can change into werewolves. Honestly, go off. It seems like there are so many different groups and factions. Like anything you can imagine, anything you name, except happy, peaceful things. It's probably here. Okay, here's my question. There are people living. There are still cities, like the cities, yeah, they're post-apocalyptic or whatever. There have to be restaurants. Tell me there's at least one coffee shop where people go, they look at the news. Imagine a coffee shop where it's like, there's this one coffee shop in Warhammer where like there are no boundaries or no, like it's a neutral ground. So people from every faction just go there to hang out. And it's like, this is crazy, isn't it? They're just talking to each other. Like over all this like news and chaos outside, then they go back out and start fighting again. But like, I'd like to imagine there's a place like this. Everything's in MRE in the future. The Infinite and Divine have the main characters hang out at a cafe. I need to look up the Infinite and the Divine. Absolutely.
This means that while they can move,
there's
it's
also
not as natural or
Necrons.
easy, but given that
But they are
can
also
still learn to
Necrons.
use it to good effect and have it be still more of a benefit than a hindrance in combat. But for all of her genius, the black carapace was an extremely troublesome organ to perfect. It would not easily replicate
an
on candidates,
organ.
or sometimes it would become overly aggressive. It was
A
only with
bonus
the combined
organ?
help of Ezekiel Sedaine, later Belisarius Call, who would bring it to a stable and usable state. Sedaine would in fact later replace Astarte as the head of the biotechnical division, and in many respects this is something of a tragic tale, because although Astarte had been instrumental to
the way there's so much lore here. It's like there's so many bits of development in science, and also so many people involved in making these things, and they have their stories. The Emperor has a story. Like every single group and person has such like a detailed
the development of the
plot.
Emperor's finest warriors. By the period of heresy in the 31st millennium, she had been somewhat forgotten about. Her inability to achieve the final success in the project led fellow scientists seeing her as something of a failure, even though this was very far from the truth. Zidane would fare no better though. His fate was far from that which he had spent so very long in planning. The early Astartes were not developed in isolation though. Although they were initially sheathed with grey thunder armour and assigned what appeared to be arbitrary numerical designations, secretly genetic material from each of the developing primates had been used and implanted into candidates to transform them from merely powerful warriors to what we would come to know now as the Space Marines.
So the Space Marines still do have some of the Emperor's like genes, kind of, or like gene data, and they're like a test for like the Astartes, or like this first group, the Grey Legion, yeah, and so this is like all a test, and at the same time as the Thunder Brigades were doing their things. I love the Legion of the Damned. There are different factions in the Space Marines.
Unlike the modern
there are different factions in these factions.
The first legions were recruited and genetically adapted from full adult specimens. It was only later that adolescents were seen as being best for
recruited and adapted.
The reason for this was primarily to enable better integration, acceptance and development of the Astartes gene seed into their bodies. From the way it's often described, people commonly make the mistake of assuming that there was a distinct line where the Thunder Warriors ended and the Space Marines began.
Seeing?
It's not unreasonable to see why this can happen. I've just done it myself in this video by describing the ultimate end of the Thunder Warriors, followed by how now they were succeeded by the Astartes.
So they're like very different groups that are sort of similar or like existed at near the same time and sort of do the same things, but differently. Yeah. Okay. Thunder Warriors and Astartes, separate. Are they orphans? Maybe. That wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them were.
As we know it. Initially, there was something of a mixed force of proto-Astartes. This makes sense when you think about it. To ensure that the newly adapted warriors were stable and did not, for example, just go insane or suffer catastrophic organ failures, yet it's this overlap that some might suggest was itself ultimately a trigger for the downfall of the Thunder Warriors, creating suspicion and jealousy. The Thunder Warriors were known for being more brutal and more mentally unstable.
So it's like the Thunder Warriors finding out about these experiments, these halfway people, and getting upset or suspicious, getting sus of what was actually going on. I read all our Space Marine factions. Oh, these all are Space Wolves, Grey Knights, Ultramarines, Salamanders, Black Templars. There are so many. That's insane. Orphans. You didn't go there. Orphan Slayer 9999, otherwise known as Bungo Stray Dogs. Bungo Stray Dogs has it out for kids and orphans.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
Anyway, so it's possible that once the Thunder Warriors saw the writing on the wall, they realised their days were numbered. Who knows how it all finally ended, but we know that they were all but extinguished in a large massacre, some eluded capture, but none are known to have existed to this day in the 42nd millennium. So once the Proto-Astartes were stabilised and formed into some 20 regiments of barely 100 warriors each.
So the present day is the 42nd millennium, and like our years, like 2000 whatever, is like the second millennium. So it's literally 40k years. 40,000 from like today.
The Emperor would call upon the warriors of the many conquered tribes of terror
this
to
chaos
strengthen and build his mighty legions of superhuman warriors.
Oh, these are Space Marines. Yeah, we watched the what the F are or is 40k. It was kind of shorter, and chat wanted us to see some Space Marines. So yeah, this is the Space Marines video, and Primarch to Primaris. Yeah. Or that's the playlist name. But yeah, I think we'll watch more like detailed things maybe next week. I do want to learn more.
The inclusion of genetic material from the Primarchs into each of these 20 regiments did unknowingly imbue the warriors with certain characteristics and traits, and it appears that this was at least one reason as to why the newly formed Space Marines were assigned specific legions, to which they were then permanently assigned. In these early days, unlike the modern strict Codex Astartes chapters of the 41st millennium, the legions of the 30th millennium had no limitations on legion numbers, so depending on the requirements and pressures during...
So they could be like really big. It seems like they were just like beta testers. Beta testing these organs, the black carapace, and this armor, like this new armor, and yeah, just beta testing, alpha testing. So there weren't like a ton of restrictions, like anything went to see what would happen. Hey Derek, much could be prevented with the restraining order. If only. if only, like, all these people just, like, learn to smile sometimes. Be nice. just be nice. Go hang out with
During
other
the
people.
Emperor's Great Crusade, many of the legions quickly
Maybe a lot
grew
of these
from hundreds
conflicts could have
to
gone
tens
away.
of thousands. A great many of these early legions would not
Thousands?
immediately wear the distinctive colours we know today. There were no Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Imperial Fists, Alpha Legion, or Emperor's Children. They still wore the plain grey armour painted with the Thunderstrike symbol of the Emperor and his Thunder Warriors.
And if this is the 38th millennium, that's still like 4,000 years before. So like 2000 BCE, it is like the comparison. So like, what would that be? Egypt, like ancient Egypt to today is like the difference between this and like modern day in the
Also,
world.
not even their armour was universally consistent. Because of the fast development, much of the armour used still contained elements of Thunder armour, and that was often cannibalised from techno-barbarians that they'd fought previously.
Kind of between.
Unlike their precursors, the Thunder Warriors, these new Astartes had a greater sense of honour and brotherhood, and so their armour would begin to become embellished with the marks of achievement and distinction for
That's kind of nice. Also, Astartes is on my list. The animations. Thank you, Easy. Yeah, I think we'll watch it soon. Not this time, but it's in my queue. Yeah, I'm excited.
recognition between one another for their achievements, and this is where you start to see things like purity seals come in. It's a commitment to
purity
achieve a certain
seals.
act on the battlefield, and if you survive and it is left intact, you have achieved that, and it's a demonstration of your ability as a warrior. In the later period of the 41st millennium, this has had religious connotations, but originally it was really
I
a
see.
warrior symbol between each other to sort of a mark of respect. So this would process and develop into each legion having their own livery and theme and name. And this was sometimes given by the Emperor himself, but for others it was a result of their literal combat style.
So I know this sounds like it's really tragic. It's a lot of people fighting. They're like changed. They're mutated or like what's the word? Amplified, augmented to be like fighters. But also they have this like these bonds with their teammates. They're close. They're doing things for each other. I know they look like so straight-faced and serious, but yeah, they have like super bright colors. It's kind of wholesome in a weird way. There's so much lore for 40K, as in several hundred novels worth. I thought Arcanites had a lot of lore. I thought Project Moon had a lot of lore. This is another level. This feels like stepping into another real world. Like the amount of lore Earth has, but like more than we have, more history than we do.
And not all of this happened
That's
at equal
insane.
times either. There was no set date for legions to emerge, all simultaneously wearing bright colours as a bit.
Oh, also, yeah, I don't know if one person wrote this story or if it's like a lot of people. I have a feeling it's got to be a lot of people or like a team. If the story is this deep, over 30 years, that's crazy. Yeah.
Big reveal. For example, the Death Guard were originally known as the Dusk Raiders, and their origin was still tied to the
Dusk
period of the
Raiders.
Unification Wars before the Crusade had even begun properly. Their armour was painted a dull crimson, meant to represent their preferred strategy of assaulting at dusk, and this would later change during the Crusade to the bright white of the Death Guard when they were reunited with Mortarion. But then in contrast, you may
The
have
Death
something like
Guard.
a regiment like the 13th Legion, who were briefly known while they still had some involvement in the period of unification as
Yeah, some people have mentioned the 13th Legion before. Many authors. It doesn't surprise me. Yeah, 30 plus years of built lore. That's insane. Like, imagine if Arcanites goes for 30 years. Or like Limbus Company, or like Project Moon Games. This sounds insane. I don't know if anything can come close to this. This story's hugeness.
as the War Board.
Wow.
However, as they were disconnected from the affairs on Terra, made their first victories in the Sol system, they were referred to generally just as the 13th Legion. In fact, where
The
many legions
13th.
quickly developed colours that had some significance, the 13th were far slower to do so. Some, after certain victories, would paint a colour relevant to a specific battle or victory to their shoulder pauldrons, but it was nothing more notable than that. They embraced the numerical assignment more about their legion, one of their first overall commanders noting that, "I'm told that once the numeral 13th was taken as an ill omen by the weak-minded and those enslaved by the lies of superstition." But in
So for the 13th, it wasn't so much about like colors or like bright symbols. It was more like the 13th that was their identity. The number, the 13th. Just embracing. The mentors have some heavy feel stories. Oh, and there's so much angst. There's so much potential for angst in this. I have a feeling there are so many fanfics. I bet there are fanfics about everything. Yeah. What would pink armor mean? I don't know. If red is like, it could just be like their favorite color or like a way it like connects. But if red is like dusk, maybe pink is like sunrise. That could be pretty. Or like sand. Yeah. Look up the Robotian heresy. The way this sounds like an event. Like an event name. Like, what's a big like history event? Like the Magna Carta or something. Yeah, look up the Magna Carta, the Robotian heresy. Wow. Most smell Death Guard, best smell pre-heresy Emperor's Children. Do you know what these smell like? They have canon smells.
And glory. Once the 13th Legion had been finally reunited with their Primarch, their armour would become the familiar blue chased gold, bearing the Ultramar U that was known to have been seen printed on stellar charts dating to the period before their isolation in the system. So,
honestly,
for the Astartes, their armour design could originate from events and deeds.
I think it'd be funny if it was like scratch and sniff armor. Like, you know, as a way to keep your sanity in battle, you paint your armor blue and it smells like blueberries. Yeah. Or purples, grapes. And it could be intimidating for enemies. If you smell grapes, you smell blueberries, you know it's the 13th coming. You smell the blueberry scent, it's over. It's over.
Or it could more simply be just chosen by their Primarch as best suited his wishes. This was repeated often where a legion had built up its own system or understanding of armour embellishment, only to have their new Primarch wash it all away. And this was noted perhaps more starkly, as I said already, with the Dusk Raiders, who were torn of their terror and heritage and slathered with the white and green of the Death Guard.
Oh, that makes sense. So each of the Primarchs like takes over a group of these like Space Marines. That makes sense. Once you see how the Death Guard looks, you'll understand the smell. Red as the blood of my enemies. Okay.
Moreover, as the legions progressed, depending on the success of their campaigns, they needed to replace their losses. In the case of some legions, especially those who would fall later into heresy, this practice would allow for slow-growing fractures to form inside their brotherhoods.
Yeah, also, it seems like so each of these legions is connected to a Primarch. And also, each Primarch has some connection to it, like another deity. Some like, unless they're like the Death God is talking about a Primarch, because they're like demigods. Yeah. I wonder. It makes me really wonder about. Also, like the gods, like these deities in chaos, like oppose the Primarchs and kidnap them. But also that like the legions worship them. It's confusing. There's a lot here. Imp's children of the canon, pretty boys. So they would wear perfumes. Nice.
Where those of Terran heritage,
at least somebody smells good.
Loyal to the core
at least somebody smells good.
Would find their newly created Legion brothers held something of a different air and view that was difficult to pinpoint. It would certainly become clear enough in the mass slaughter to follow when the heretics came out into the open.
The heretics, and so the heretics would be the cult leaders, like so somehow chaos can like infiltrate the minds of people and like make them into cultists, and that's why like heresy is taken so seriously, because anyone could be a cultist, and this is what happened the last time. And okay, that makes sense. And this happened to the Emperor the last time the cultists took over, and so they're so firm against heresy now because of this like past event.
Out of necessity began their abandonment of the Emperor by killing most of those who were the original members of the legions and who had sprung from Terra itself and would never turn traitor. But for those Marines who had only ever known loyalty to their Primarch and had been born out in the darkness of the galaxy, it was an entirely different matter. As the Astartes legions forged their way into the galaxy, they encountered many new enemies. Some worlds would welcome their reunification into the new Imperium of Man, others would resist it with every breath in their bodies.
Yeah, that's right. So they go, like, their mission is to go originally, to like reunify the world. And now it's like to go reunify the Primarchs. Like that's sort of the goal of these Space Marines. Yeah. Start with maybe I'll have an extra dessert one day, and another day you're a full cannibal. That sounds like the Project Moon. It sounds like a brain rot, like rabbit hole. It's a slippery slope. One day you watch one video, the next you're in over your head. You've read 5 books. You have like a dozen minis, and you've booked like 5 game sessions over the next month. Except if you run away or retreat without being ordered to, it was seen as heresy, and there was no retreating ever. So it's like blind following, sort of the same as like that first group that like the Thunder Legion like fought, the first groups. Yeah, like some under-equipped humans who fought the Thunder Legions were like the ones who didn't retreat were like bound by this sort of same duty.
Human worlds were always initially approached with diplomacy. This was meant to be a peaceful, joyous
Initial
voyage
diplomacy.
of discovery and connection. But for many civilizations during the Age of Strife and the times since, they had either forgotten completely that there ever was any galactic federation of humanity, or that they had actively chosen to have nothing to do with such a thing now.
It has
Other
just been
worlds
so
had simply
long.
regressed into barbaric apocalypse or a pre-medieval state. All of these situations proved challenging, and each new world required its own specific approach. Yet,
And I'm sure there are stories for every single world. Yeah. And so they basically invade these worlds to pull them back into this other group of humans, which might not go over well all the time, but like whatever.
where resistance was
Like
met,
whatever.
sometimes they were heavily armed or had been plagued by Xenos, not to mention the Xenos the Marines would encounter as part of their explorations regardless. The bottom line is, losses
Xenos,
mounted, and the Astartes
the
needed to
orcs.
replace their numbers
The
and bolster
orcs.
their forces as they went deeper into space.
I can't wait to learn more about the orcs. They might be my favorite. They're so wholesome. Yeah, they bash people, they fight people, but they're so sweet. They have a smile on their face the whole time. They have the most, like, the sweetest mind. Like, yeah, I'm going to go out and do my best today. And even after getting beaten up, they say, I'm going to go out and have fun tomorrow too.
This wide expansion underlines something that many had long suspected, that there was a powerful link between the Primarchs and the development of their specific legions. At the same time, the legions being reunited with their Primarchs had closed down an impending crisis in that they'd been required to rely upon their own gene seed ever since leaving Terra, and this had been slowly diminishing in stability.
Relying
Like so
on their
many
own
examples, when
genes.
you make a copy of a copy of a copy, each process degrades that quality.
They've still been copying and copying. It reminds me a little of our core. Like, each of these legions are very much like our core coded. Like rhinos and rabbits and reindeer. Yeah, wholesome until you find out what they do when they're human ranchers. Or the orcs have human ranchers. Yeah, it's where you take human made ranch, like the condiment ranch, right? And they like pass it around. Yeah, no, it's not. Oh, it's fine. I bet it's like Promised Neverland.
Is not suitable or stable enough to make new copies. Of course, the provision being, unless you have a suitable original base starting point.
An
This is why when
original.
you're, for example, printing money, you'll have a plate system, so that plate isn't going to degrade in quality. But
Oh,
if
that's
you
how
had
money
a cheaper
works.
or a less well-made original, as you use it, it's going to slowly wear. And that's the problem that the Astartes had when they're going out into the galaxy.
I'm learning so much. So that's how people make money, or like make money, is by printing it. Like, I knew that was a thing, but like with these, were the same like prints or like templates. Yeah. And so now that they're reunited with the Primarchs, then they have like a stable source of
They only had
genes.
their own genetic material, and so it just became weaker and more unstable, random mutations and so on as it went along.
Oh,
And for
random
different reasons,
mutations.
this was more problematic than for others. Also, to be absolutely clear, this is not to suggest Marines were cloning themselves. That's not what happens. But their base
never
genetic
mind.
material, their gene seed, was what had to be replicated to form the starting point of the Astartes conversion process. And this brings us along to something known as Grabia's theorem. A conclave of the Emperor's gene rights were all too aware of the problem facing the Astartes, and so they put forth a suggestion to them known as Grabia's theorem. This revelation to the Astartes, who it's worth remembering are not scientists themselves, stated that a Primarch's genetic code could be used to actually stabilize and expand their current gene seed store. And
So, okay. So they used a Primarch's genes to like enhance their own. Yeah. That's how it sounds. And that like helped them enhance into like full Astartes as we know them. Or something.
that by doing so, it would significantly reduce any mutations from the baseline genetic code. The Primarchs were, in essence, the plate that I'm talking about in terms of printing.
Yeah.
They are a stable constant, which enables many more Marines to be produced because their gene seed is of so much higher quality. However, this discovery of what seems to be a perfect solution is where another of what I would class as the lesser known facts about the Emperor becomes exposed. The battles and often grinding a...
Yeah, it feels like this story is, yeah, these people, this group, they did a lot of good things. They almost reached their goal, but there was this one thing everybody forgot about, and it didn't pan out. It just didn't work. And then this other group, they were really close to being exactly what they wanted to be, but this other like forgotten detail that's like a tiny little thing just wasn't perfect, and it like keeps going. How many alcoholics would exist in Warhammer if alcohol was available? I don't know. Maybe a lot of them. Maybe. Hey, Matthew, a human and a ditto. That's what it seems like. Like the Primarchs are the humans, and like the Marines are becoming dittos. Yeah.
Attritions that had been taking place were consistently wearing down the Astartes legions, and so there was a need to replace them, and replace them faster and faster. The sensible thing would have been to slow down the expansion, to set up facilities and allow your forces to replenish before pushing on.
But you kept copying even faster, like beyond your means. That's horrifying. And so they're taking tissue or like samples from the Emperor.
The Emperor, this was not an option. He demanded
the
that there be no
Primarchs.
respite and no slow in the Crusade's progress. And this meant that the only option was to create more Astartes and faster than had been achieved by means of using standard gene seed cultivation. So in addition to Grabia's theorem, they implemented accelerated gene culturing techniques along with previously unavailable genetic engineering technology.
Accelerated culturing? Is that like when like a cloned person grows faster? It's like it takes them 10 years or something, or like less time to become like fully matured or like an adult or whatever. This one has 2 different eye colors. It's a failure.
And that would greatly reduce the processing time required to create an Astartes from many, many years to as little as even a single year. It was the Emperor himself, against the advice of his scientific advisors, who chose to push forward and force a highly accelerated gene seed cultivation with a total lack of quality control coupled with aggressive psycho-indoctrination and mental strengthening techniques.
Psycho-indoctrination? So all of these devices are like injecting and keeping you strapped down. This one's perfect. But it's a nanometer too short. At least you think I'm perfect. I heard I was perfect, so I'll take that. I'll take that. Except they're an adult doing the genetic cultivation to make them bigger. Oh, it's already adult. So it just takes less time for like this adult person to be mutated. Or like genetically cultivated. You get like your new black carapace organ, right? And like other things.
The core of the matter seems to be that the Emperor was more concerned with the progression and the push of the Crusade and its success than he was with the health and well-being of those under his ward. So it's with little surprise that these processes were later found to have caused fundamental flaws in the Astartes that had been subjected to the poor quality gene seed as a result of these processes.
I wonder if the Emperor like knew something, like there was a disaster coming in a certain amount of time, or like if they didn't go fast enough, the Emperor had this like other knowledge of the future, and like that's what he was worried about, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here as much as I can. And it wasn't just, I don't care, go faster. Do furries exist in Warhammer? Maybe. Probably. I feel like wherever there are humans, there are furries. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I see. That makes sense then.
Now many
That's
know
rough.
the flaws in the various Astartes chapters even in the 41st millennium. Some lack the organs of other Astartes due to the degradation in genetic quality.
Again, this artwork, the way the style captures like creepy medieval history style, and it's just vague enough sometimes that you can't really tell exactly what's happening in the artwork. How much is like the artist's interpretation of actual events, or just like something they heard about but never saw.
For some, their own genetic code became basically inviable, but few people seem to remember that it was the
Inviable
Emperor's
codes.
demand to create larger Space Marine legions at an accelerated speed that either degraded their genetic quality or concentrated emotional and physical flaws presented by their Primarchs, which played a crucial role in the degradation of the stability and the sanity of many Space Marine legions. Difficult
This
to
looks
assess
so
just how much
horrifying.
of a role these actions had during the Great Crusade, and also
It looks like your brain is open, unless that's hair. So these are all, and this is where it sort of became more religious. Like just go along with things. Hey, I say here, the planet literally started as a furry Viking theme park kind of thing. Really? I mean, go off. Wow. What's scarier is a person in, oh, which is scarier? A person in bloody armor, or a person in bloody armor that is cat ears attached? Honestly, I don't think it really makes a difference for me. They both be scary. The cat ears are kind of cute, but yeah, if it's like house cat ears and not like lion ears or something, yeah.
also how much they would enable what was still to come. But it's fair to say that primarily through the Emperor's own actions, his desire to push forward and not consider the health of his actual Astartes, you could perhaps
So
harshly
creepy.
say he ended up with damaged materials that would then form the foundations of what would become the horror of the Horus Heresy.
Also, here's a random thought. What if the Emperor like wanted to have damaged soldiers so they wouldn't be strong enough to fight back? Like, this was intentional. Like you didn't care like how well trained or like reliable they were, because if they were just a little bit weaker, you could survive against them or something. Yeah. A Warhammer. We're reacting to Warhammer. This is about the Astartes, the Space Marines, and we watched What the F is Warhammer earlier. Yeah. I think, how much more is left in this part of the video? Oh, this is the end of this section. Maybe we'll watch up to the heresy. Okay, let's finish the heresy and then maybe wrap up. I think. Yeah, we'll finish the heresy. We'll end the video. You can go watch the rest of this on this channel. It's linked in the description. And yeah, yeah, go check out Luetin09. Luetin09. Yes, please. Absolutely. And the next week, I think we can get to like some other, maybe more palatable intros to the series.
Now, I am
The
sure you
Horus Heresy is so creepy. So, okay, my guess is so far it's like we know that the emperor dies, or just sort of dies, but is put on this golden throne, and we know that it's because of the promise that he made with the like chaos deities and warp, and that they can make demons and like cultists. So yeah, so many faces on all of this.
can appreciate why I'm choosing to include a piece about the heresy in here, but also that I am going to significantly shorten it. The Horus Heresy is what occurs between the early period of Imperium and the Great Crusade,
It's like mouths and
then the
mouths
Second
and
Founding,
mouths.
which is essentially what we might roughly refer to as the modern Imperium, although in truth the modern Imperium developed over millennia through a variety of events and different power struggles. Now, why have I chosen not to cover in detail one of the most singularly important events for humanity in this age?
I'm sorry, this random 3D, I'm assuming this is a cutscene from a game or something. Maybe it is. Like, this feels like an ancient game, not ancient, but like a really, really old game. Or like an old movie
The key
cutscene.
reason is that important as this
The
period
Salamanders
was
would
in the
never.
grand scheme of things, we can actually summarise it relatively simply. But let me begin by throwing out some anti-imperialistic propaganda. And however you want to cut it, it was in truth the
Propaganda.
Emperor who created the situation of the heresy.
The
If he was
Emperor
all-knowing as
created
we like to
this.
believe, we can only presume this was part of some grander plan. It's difficult to see how that can be the case, given what was to come, but if the Emperor is the be-all and end-all, that seems to be the only conclusion you could draw. Now, although the War Master Horus was the ultimate champion of chaos during this time,
Horus. This is Horus, the War Master. Your design is crazy. The Horus heresy is the half of his sons betraying the God Emperor. Yeah, like the half of the patriarch. No,
it was the
that
legion
word.
known as the Word Bearers in Erebus who were the instigators.
I keep saying
and
patriarch by
architects of the
mistake.
heresy.
That's not
You
the
see,
right word.
The Emperor had brutally chastised the Word Bearers for perpetuating the belief in the worlds they reunited.
I thought your belt was your face. I thought Horus' belt was. I thought your face was all the way down there. Okay.
Brutally chastised the Word Bearers for perpetuating the belief in the worlds they reunited with the Imperium, teaching its citizens that the Emperor was basically a god to be worshipped. This went horrifically counter to the imperial truth. The rationalist and strictly atheist ideology the Emperor had
So
set out to be
creepy.
the core of his new empire. On discovery of the Word Bearers' actions, the worlds they had conquered were brutally purged, and they themselves were chastised in the most humiliating dressing down possible by the Emperor himself personally.
So, okay, this faction, there was like a separate faction who conquered some worlds and they were purged. Is this like a faction in question? A lot just happened. A lot just
essentially
happened.
broke the will and morale of the Word Bearers to a point that it left them in a deep state of malaise. They drifted around, and it appears somewhere during this time their despair was so deep that it was used as a means to manipulate them by the darkness of chaos. Firstly, Erebus.
Oh, because it's like emotion. Because chaos is like a connection to strong emotion or like manifests things. And they were so sad. Oh. Bye, Asahi. Thanks for
and
stopping
later
by.
the Primarch Lorgar. So then,
Yeah, the
middle,
Horus
middle, middle,
heresy.
the Word Bearers position events so as to lead Horus down a dark path of corruption.
And so this is Horus, who is corrupted by chaos and like leads this heresy against the Emperor. Bombs aren't that big of a deal. The guard uses them. A virus bomb is a different kind of beast. They use planet-ending lasers.
He thus becomes, via the warp portal on Moloch, the conduit champion in the Materium for the Dark Gods, yet even then things have to be
That's
taken
right.
slowly.
So you're the one who goes through like the Moloch portal, and also you sort of look like Buzz Lightyear. Do you see Buzz Lightyear? This is evil Buzz Lightyear here in this picture. So you go through and get their powers. It's sort of like what the Emperor did a long time ago, and yeah, and you come back to face the
Taken
Emperor.
Slowly. The War Master knows he must bide his time and sow the seeds of doubt and distrust to best learn who are his allies and who are his enemies. This subtle bleed of corruption is first shown openly in what was known as the Istvan III atrocity, where Horus would
Istvan
unleash
III.
the exterminatus virus bombing of the planet while
Virus
loyalists
bombing.
from 4 legions on the surface of the planet.
So you like attack this planet with something that would like absolutely destroy it. While there were still 4 legions of your allies there, like 4 huge groups.
But when we say
That's
loyalists,
pretty serious.
these are loyalists of traitor legions. The legions at this time were still very split and divided, and the intention here was to eradicate the loyalist elements within those traitor legions. This is where Nathaniel Garrow,
Loyalists and
one of my
traitors.
most favourite Astartes of all time, escapes to deliver the message that Horus has turned traitor to the Emperor in person.
So Nathaniel, so this is the one who escaped, or one who escaped. The Traitor Legion loyalists were some of the best who ever existed. Oh, I feel bad for everybody here. So you went back to warn the Emperor. Okay, I know everybody's like horrible in this story. But I can see this perspective, like someone being super brave and thinking they're doing like the best they can
mission
to escape.
that does not go to plan. Garrow would later become the first individual who we would know later as the Grey Knights. His ultimate fate
The Grey
and survival
Knight.
was unknown. The heresy finally breaks out into the open during what would become known as the Drop Site Massacre. Half of the known forces of the Legiones
Drop Site
Astartes
Massacre.
are ordered to crush the traitors at Istvan V.
So it's literally half and half. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
But unbeknownst to them, Horus has turned 3 of the legions already to his service, ensuring the 4th is delayed. The first wave of loyalists, Iron Hands, Raven Guard and Salamanders make planetfall, but are betrayed almost immediately by the second wave of the Alpha Legion, Night Lords, Iron Warriors and elements of the Word Bearers.
So many groups. Word Bearers, Iron Lords. Yeah. So Horus already has a lot, like, already on his side, and yeah, this looks like it isn't going very well for the Emperor. Grey Knight power. That's funny. Would you rather human-flavored plant or a planet without living things? What does this mean? Barbarous?
Who trap them and then engage in what would be the bloodiest hours ever fought so far in the history of the Astartes. In its aftermath, 3 legions are near enough exterminated. Primarch Ferrus Manus is slain by Fulgrim, and 2 others, Vulcan and Corvus, are missing.
It's still so weird to me to see like a group with so many guns and cannons and those sorts of things, like pew-pews, like fighting a group with hammers and saws. Like, yeah. Like, okay, if you're going up against cannons, why do you bring a hammer? Maybe there are reasons, or like you have magic powers or something.
Ragtag band of loyalist survivors from the Iron Hands, Raven Guard and Salamanders legions would subsequently become known as the Shattered Legions.
The Shattered Legions.
A great many events take place during the Heresy. Imperium Secundus, Titan Death, Kauth, the horrors against thousands of worlds which tear themselves apart with doubt and suspicion,
looks so painful.
corruption, the Dark Mechanicum, the Solar War, Prospero, Magnus of course.
So much is happening. Magnus, Prospero, all these names and words. It was BFFs with Imperial Fist Captain Alex Pollux, which could be nothing. They bonded over a PIDA for Perturbo.
It all ultimately comes to the final confrontation in the Siege of Terra. Horus had been barreling towards Terra, seeking his final battle with the Emperor and a siege upon Terra itself.
Oh, Terra. I misheard it as terror. So Terra is like Earth. And you just attack Earth. Or siege
By
Earth.
any measure, it seemed to carry with it a high chance of victory for the traitors. The Imperial Fists with Primarch Rogor Dawn had been preparing for this with heavy fortifications. The White Scars Legion also prepared to defend the centre of the Imperium, also attending with the Blood Angels with their Primarch, and 3 entire legions of Mechanicum Titans.
So many big words. I feel like at this point in the story, we're just getting like a lot that's happening. So yeah, we'll just finish this section. But yeah, so it's like pretty evenly split. Horus has made it all the way back to like Terra, Earth, and yeah, is attacking. And I wonder how involved the warp deities are. Are they just like watching? Are they eating popcorn? Are they just casually talking to each other? Did they already go back to fighting until they know what happens down here? That's crazy.
That's not to mention the millions of mortal soldiers whose numbers I always think are severely underestimated. The brutal and bloody battle of attrition would begin, and it would take some 55 days. Yet in what appeared to be the final hours, Horus would lower his void shields aboard his battle barge, and the Emperor, with a contingent of Astartes as well as Primarchs, teleported up to engage the War Master. Unfortunately,
so they fight each other.
They were scattered throughout the vast warship, and by the time the Emperor reached the bridge, he found to his horror that the Blood Angel's Primarch had already been slaughtered by Horus.
The Primarch already died. Oh, this is the painting, or the image. It looks like a painting. It looks so pretty, like an oil painting or something. This is that image of like this one person dead, the Emperor on the right.
Thus ensued the
Horus on
legendary
the left.
battle between the Emperor and his now warp-fueled, formerly favourite son. It's difficult to know how much of Horus the Emperor fought in this battle and how much he fought the channeled powers.
Their
of the
faces are so big.
But
these art styles are crazy. Yeah. And all the details.
Powers of the Chaos Gods themselves, but his realization of his catastrophic failure, his sorrow at seeing the fate of his Primarchs and where this had brought them, meant he would not fight with his full powers. And this left open a weakness that Horus would exploit to mortally wound the Emperor, but despite this the Emperor still was able to overcome and defeat Horus, not simply slaying him and allowing his soul to be reforged by chaos in the warp. The Emperor would call upon his immense psychic power to completely erase Horus from existence
Erasing
and tear his
Horus?
soul apart, never to be reborn. Rogel Dawn arrived too late to be of any help, and was only able to save the Emperor by carrying him back to Terra so that he might be interred forevermore upon the Golden Throne.
So it sounds like they both like did a lot of damage to each other. It's like when like in those games, in like a first person shooter game, when two people shoot each other at the same time, except like you have a little more HP, but you're dying. I've never had this happen. I've never really played FPS, but yeah, I think he was a very good boy.
The massive machinery that held shut the webway tunnels that had been the Emperor's secretive project. Now his entire plans for the
Massive
future of humanity were
machinery.
destroyed, and he would live on, but only as a carrion king. Worse still, these events would have profound consequences for the next 10 millennia.
Oh, you're the Carrion King.
Even now, in these
Yeah.
earliest of times, whispers were being spoken that the Emperor's protestations that he was not a god, but merely a man, were a secret test for those who could see the truth. Against all the Emperor had taught and strived for, the next 10,000 years would see humanity descend into a dark time of stagnation, fear, rejection of science, and a belief once again in mysticism and religion.
I'm sorry. If you found out that your emperor was maybe lying about being a mystical immortal person, like why would you delve more into that and not be a science nerd at this point? But I guess maybe that's like the brainwashing and like you don't question anything.
The dark irony, of course,
maybe.
being that at the very core of this backward descent and archaic belief system would be the Emperor himself. Except that in a
The emperor's not okay. The emperor, I don't know what you're thinking. The emperor's not okay. We can agree. This isn't heresy to say this emperor has seen better days. We can agree. We can see this. The emperor sort of looks like an orc. Is this the orcification of emperor? The orcification?
final sardonic twist, it would be this ever-zealous faith in the Emperor that would not only sustain him for the millennia to come, but also help to shield humanity from the darkness of the immaterium.
To shield humanity? The Space Marine chapters. Okay. I think if there's no deity, then a Nekomimi will exist now. Honestly, go for it. So real didn't lie about being an immortal magic man. He just insisted that, that didn't make him a god. I see. You're asking questions about me. Heresy. It's really interesting. I think I will say, to see stories like this that are so detailed and like the style of story, it's very different from what I'm used to. Like apocalyptic, like Punishing Grey Raven or Arknights. Like those sorts of apocalyptic stories. Or even The Mist Company, which I feel like it's a little more similar to. I feel like these are a lot of Western themes compared to Eastern themes. Like a lot of the stories like I'm used to are like gacha games from like somewhere in Asia or that area. And yeah. And this is, I'm assuming, from like the West somewhere. But that's right, the UK. Pretty sure the amount of sense in that comment goes into the negatives. Chat's having a time. Strokes in chat. But yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. As you can see, there's a lot of lore here. I think there are, in this playlist, there are 148 videos. As you can see, 148 videos in this playlist. Yeah, and if you want to go watch more, go check out Luetin09's. Incredible. The links are in the description for the playlist and the channel. Absolutely. And yeah, I think we'll try a different video in the future, maybe a different channel, and I'll probably play one of these games at some point. Maybe with someone who knows more about it than I do. That could be nice. But this was super fun. I'll just put that away. And yeah, this was such a good time. Thanks for teaching me. I hope I learned a little bit. At least a little bit. But yeah. I'm sure there's a lot more, like so much more. And the lore keeps growing, like by the day, by the year. There's so much left. It's a lot of lore and info, even beyond the playlist. Yeah. I feel like it was info dump the stream. Info dump the stream. It was very well put together. I loved the videos. They seemed very succinct. It sort of felt like there were some opinion pieces, but they were fun. They were fun. And let's see here. Okay. I think we have a place to read. Perfect. Nice. I'll just be sure they're still live. But yeah, tomorrow we have Facade and some other fun things coming. Oh, there's music. Other fun things coming too. So yeah, if you'd like to join the Discord and recommend other things to react to or places to just start in these series, please feel free. I would love to see like other videos and animations. I wrote down a lot from today. I wrote down so many. Yeah. And perfect. Okay. Still didn't expect this quick of a response time. Yeah. If you have recommendations, I'll get to them as quickly as I can. Absolutely. So, I think Discord is the best place. There is a link in the description. Perfect. So, with that, I'll go sleep. I'll go clear my mind before we come back to this. But yeah, if I had to say like who I was, maybe an orc or like the blue people at the end, maybe, or the Tyranids. Maybe I'd just be a cute Tyranid with a pom pom. So yeah, please get lots of rest, everybody. Starbuds. I'll see you all Starside, and have a great rest of your day. Please take care of yourselves. Would have thought to mention something about this was fine. Please take care, Starbuds, and I'll see you Starside. Bye bye.